Welcome to the At the Table with the Herities podcast. We're David and Amy, a couple of imperfect followers of Christ. Come on in and join us. This is where you'll be inspired and encouraged by stories of believers, how they found Jesus and how they follow him, how he moves and how he changes lives. We are blessed to walk it out together with you. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to At the Table with the Herities. We just got done reminiscing on trunk or treat at our church that we were not able to attend. And my gosh, Christmas on 97, 2 years in a row was so fun for us.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
I'm so glad.
So fun for us. Oh my gosh. So we were just giggling about that. And I cannot wait. We cannot wait for you to hear. And we can't wait because we do not know all of Leah's story.
Yeah, we don't.
We know bits and pieces. And so it's just so neat. So this is our beautiful Leah Hancock from our life now. She's a part of our life. We've had a lot of fun and our lunches have been fun. And just being with you as a part of our family in Christ, knowing that if I called you and said, hey, I need you now. You prayed for us the other day and you left it as a voice clip, and how meaningful that is in my life and my walk with Christ, and it strengthens my faith. Leah is our kids minister. And as we have done more in the service work for church, we've gotten to know Leah even more and just been able to pray with her for us, and just walked alongside her.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Thank you for being on. Thank you for coming. Oh my goodness. Episode 12.
That's crazy.
So will you tell us a little bit about you, give us some background, and then it'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll kind of start from just like the beginning. Grew up, I have one sister. She's 3 years older than me, my mom and dad. And we'll just start with like when I became a follower of God, which is at the ripe age of 6 years old. A lot of people say like, you don't know. For sure. I was just one of those kids that Sundays were my absolute favorites. I had all my birthday parties up till like probably 7 or 8 at my church. We would have them at like the little playground they had, and we had a pavilion. It was called a Word of Life. It's owned by someone else different now and everything, but it was really awesome. And I specifically remember, it's gonna be the weirdest story, but I remember the day because I love Jesus. My parents talked about him a lot. You know, we prayed. We had envelopes because my dad was really into Dave Ramsey, but also about tithing. So we had like envelopes and everything. I put 50 cents in there.
You do have a good awareness of all of that for someone of your, how old are you?
I was 28. I'm not. I'm 26.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, 26.
Because that starts happening when you get to be.
It's getting scary. I still feel like I'm 24.
Oh, listen, I feel very young in my mind often, and I'm 49. We're 49. We've talked about that.
I still feel like I'm 18. So.
I love that.
It's good. It's good. Okay, so 26.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, so 20 years ago, I accepted Christ, and I remember it because, it's okay if I like name drop, like there's nothing bad. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I remember Brother Kevin and Brother James were like our kids leaders, and we were in Caruso Kids. It was really fun.
Where is
it was at Word of Life. It's in Sand Springs.
Okay.
It was across
because that's where you grew up.
the
Sand
river.
Springs? Okay.
And I still live there today.
Okay,
yes.
so for our people who are not from here, Sand Springs is about 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away.
Yeah, from Tulsa. Midtown, you can get there in 15 minutes.
On the Arkansas River, right? Ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I live out more by Manford, but yeah.
Okay.
He's out that way.
That makes it super clear for everybody.
Thank you. Right? My Ohio people are like, we don't really care. Just keep going.
We're just a suburb of Tulsa.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
Yes.
Not far from where I teach, for those of you who know that.
Yeah, super close. Okay, so Brother James and Brother Kevin, we had these videos that we'd watch. Like, they would give us a lesson, and we'd have these videos, and it was called the Zion 7 Report. Adam and Eve were the co-anchors. And it would have a mix of, like...
Cool.
What was it called?
Zion 7 Report.
Zion 7 Report.
I have also tried to look this up, like, on YouTube so many times. And not find them. It's gone. Me and my friends swear up and down. We're like, we know this is what it's called. We know that's what it was. Our church did not create it. It was a curriculum that they bought.
What was the church? What was it like?
I could not tell you. Oh, our church, it was non-denominational, but looking back, I feel like it had heavy influence of like some Pentecostal vibes in it. Because they did like speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of movement when we danced a lot.
A little bit of movement.
Praise and worship. So we'll dive into that
so
later.
good at it, girl.
That's why I talk with my hands.
So was it smaller, I guess, was smaller church?
It was bigger, medium.
And you said they're not there anymore? Or they got bought out?
They got bought. So there was like a thing that happened with our Pastor David Imai. He ended up passing. A new guy came in, Pastor Chaz, and then it changed After a little bit, I don't know who's in charge of it now. Now it's called, I think, Reach.
Oh, okay.
It's out there by Northwoods. If you guys know where that's at in Sand Springs. No, I figured maybe.
No, okay.
Visit all these places.
Yeah, for real. But back to it. In the story, it would flip back between like puppets and real life people, but it was like a video. And I remember, like I said, I was super close to God and everything. But today's lesson was about, so dark for 6-year-olds. It was about hell, and the puppets were in fire and everything, and it did like this whole story.
Wow.
Afterwards, I was like, whoa, that was heavy. And so we would either go to like Pizza Hut or El Maguey's right after church. So we did that, and then we went to Walmart. And I was just in the parking lot with my mom. And from what I remember, again, I was 6, so sometimes it's a little muddled, but I remember saying, hey, Mom, I don't want to go to hell. And she was like, oh. Okay. And so she's like, why did you say that? And I told her about the video we watched, and she was like, well, Leah. And I was like, but I love Jesus, so I'm not going, right? And so she was able to explain to me, like, all you have to do is ask God into your heart and everything. So I got saved in a Walmart parking lot. Yeah.
I wonder why. I love that place.
Would not
I know. I literally had to come home from there the other day. I was like, I can't do it today.
No, it's resource or nothing. I avoid Walmart at all costs, even though it's like, where I was born.
I try not. I need to start doing, and Pam has told me, do the pickup, Amy. They go sit in your spot, call them, they bring it out to you.
They don't give you the right stuff. I shouldn't be trashing Walmart on this podcast.
No, it's good. A spade is a spade.
It is. But
so she was able to talk you in.
Yeah, she talked me through it, and both my parents were like the followers of God and everything, and so we had a lot more discussions after that. But growing up, one thing that wasn't super big, which I learned now working at a Baptist like affiliated church, is like baptism wasn't like super huge, and it wasn't, I don't want to say pushed is a bad word, pushed so early, but that's the only way I can like really explain it. And so there was like not really a follow up, and I didn't tell like Brother James that I got saved or anything. It was just like, hey, that's personal to me, like and they would always do an invitation at the end of like our kids services. But that's kind of when I started, and then super still into church growing up. When I was about 8, my parents got a divorce, and that was really, really hard. I don't quite know personally what happened with them in the church, but I know it hurt my parents' feelings, and so we didn't really go to Word of Life that much. And I think they were also just naturally embarrassed about things that had happened.
Yeah. Probably so, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was just they decided to part ways, and not like a situation. And
church hurt is real. I'm learning that. And I've, because I didn't really have a church background at all. I'm 6 years into my walk. So I'm still real new to all of that. You guys have been walking and been in churches and deep in service in churches much longer than me. So I kind of am just starting to understand that because you spend so much time and you put so much love, and I can
so much investment. Not even the church, but just the people in the church.
Oh yeah, they're your family.
And we are human and we fail, so we're going to hurt people, and not even meaning to, we will.
It is like a different time. I always say like the 2000s had, I don't know, our church just has such a good, healthy culture that I'm like, wow, I've never been to a church like this. Not trashing it. I loved my church growing up.
I love my churches in Ohio, but there's something so very special about our church. We say it all the time very openly, and please come just check it out, because I cannot believe, I'm in awe at God that He gave me a church here immediately that I fell in love with and felt so shepherded, so well shepherded.
Yeah, it's
you felt
true.
the same.
But the church you grew up in served a purpose.
Yeah.
It led you to Christ.
Yeah,
whether it was through videos or not, it was through
a lot of stuff. Like He was already working in my heart, and I knew that as a 6-year-old. Like I totally understood what I was doing. And I know a lot of people are like, I didn't know what I was doing, blah blah blah, or you can't really tell at that age. But my parents were really like encouraging of like, we're not going to tell you what you understand and what you don't understand. Like if you felt a stirring in your heart, you felt that stirring. And so after like they divorced and everything, I had a really good friend, Shannon, that went to church there, and our parents were tight with their parents, and so I still went with her a ton.
Oh, that's so
and it was
awesome.
really fun, and you'd have those awkward things where like people would be trying to ask you questions, and it's like, what? I don't know.
That
had to have been kind of awkward too.
It was
a little bit
weird because it's like grown-up people that I didn't truly know, but it was like my parents knew them, so I was like, who are you? I don't know your name, but do
so
you on the
both your
welcome
parents
team?
were like, we're not going anymore. Yeah.
No, they were kind of scorned a little bit. And my mom, so then we did a lot of like, my mom moved to Tulsa, and then my dad stayed, in the house that we have now in Sand Springs. And so every 2 days we would switch and then alternate weekends. And so we started shopping around with churches for my mom, but I pretty much went to Word of Life with Shannon and them, probably until I was like 11 or 12-ish.
Okay, so you went through quite a little bit longer after
here
that.
and there,
okay.
not like continuously, like every single Sunday,
Right.
but eventually my sister, through her meeting some really great people at her school, the Dotsons, actually.
Aww.
Jennifer and her are best friends. For those of the Dotsons go to our church. They're wonderful people. Wonderful. Sarah met them, and then they went to. I know they're amazing.
Well, the other Dotson's a sister. The one you know is a sister.
There's like a lot of them. Oh yeah, I did not realize there were so many of them.
Our Dotson lives here in Berry Hills.
Yes, she does. We know all of them. We actually grew up. It's a whole thing. Like, we're all connected. It's really weird.
Well, my daughter graduated with Davis.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah. He was a year after
grew up with Davis.
Yeah. Oh, such a small world.
It's such a small world. But,
oh my gosh.
She met Jennifer, and then they were going to First Baptist in downtown Tulsa. So we're like, okay, let's try it. And so starting in middle school, I joined that youth, and it was really hard.
Because that's pretty big, isn't it? It's a pretty big youth group.
It was a huge church, and we didn't have the biggest like Sand Springs group that we had. Different. A lot of Tulsa kids is kind of cliquey, I will say.
I bet so. Yeah.
No hate on them. It was just like metro schools and Union, and like everyone kind of knew each other. And
I've heard that a lot ever since I've been here. There's a very deep connection and pride for the school that
you're in.
I thought it was bad in Ohio. I was like, man, this place.
So it was like Berry Hill, Sand Springs, and Skytook really like stuck together because we're like, okay, we're obviously like the minority population of schools right now.
Exactly.
So I went there. It was hard. It was really hard to get used to that, but it ended up being one of the best things ever. Matt McClure was our youth pastor, and Michael McMahon was our youth worship pastor. They were wonderful. Wow. I have nothing bad to say about them.
Well, you didn't know anybody going over there?
I didn't know anybody. My sister knew her two friends, Landry and Jennifer, and I didn't know anybody.
Great.
Yeah, they were 4 grades older than me, and so I was like,
because you were what at this time, about 12?
13, 12 or 13.
Yeah. 7th grade, somewhere in there?
Yeah, I was in 6th, 7th grade. And it was really hard. I met a couple really great people. And I would bring my friend with me, but she actually grew up Catholic, and so sometimes she couldn't always go to church with me. But then in the end, Shannon started coming with me.
Oh, awesome.
And that made it 10 times better. But it was really hard. Not until about 8th grade, after I went to Falls Creek, started bringing my friend at the time, Carly and Mackenzie, and went to Falls Creek. And that's kind of like where we got connected with more people from that youth group and everything. I'll say I was never in the cliques of the groups. We kind of had our own little thing going on. Yeah. But in the end, as like high school went on and on with that, Mr. Harold actually ended up we broke off on Wednesday nights because there were so many districts of different schools. People were coming from Catoosa to come on Wednesday nights to downtown Tulsa. So we actually had it like, we would do like neighborhood C groups is what we called them. So Berry Hill and Sand Springs combined, and Mr. Harold taught ours, from when I was in 8th grade all the way through senior year.
Wow.
And it was really, really cool. But that church also introduced me to, like when I was in 9th grade, it's also the first time I really felt like I could see like God's calling for something, like audibly hearing his, I was like, whoa, this is wild. Or not like audibly hearing his voice, but like just inside, I was like, this is it. They were talking about a trip to Guatemala, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. But then I felt so drawn to it, and I was like, why do I feel drawn to this? And then, oh my gosh, I like prayed about it, and I talked about it with my parents. And then in 9th grade on spring break, I was able to go, I was 15, and they let me go to Guatemala for a week with our church. Little did we know, we were field. Yeah, it was a big time mission field. We were doing neighborhood evangelism, like walking around. It was amazing, but honestly, the scariest thing, I still remember like my hands were shaking so bad. We flipped through these cards. We had a translator, but it was so scary. So I was like, I've never shared God with anybody in my life.
And then to be doing it that way, oh my goodness, that's scary. I would be scared, yeah.
It was crazy. We got to stay in this I don't even know how to explain it. I think we stayed in a hotel, but it was so cool. Like, it opened windows, but it had like bars on it.
Yeah.
It was like second story.
Tropical.
It was amazing. Very tropical. Very one bathroom. 25 girls in one room.
Minimal.
There was a wire popping out of the shower. There was a lizard in the shower. It was nuts. And we're like, what's happening?
This is not America.
You couldn't wear shorts. You had to wear really long skirts or pants.
Wow.
I sweated through my pants every single day. I was like, oh my gosh, it was so fun. But
how long were you there?
We were there 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. And the night before I left, I actually was like, hey, it was like 11 p.m. at night, and I walked in and I was like, hey, Dad, I'm not going to Guatemala anymore. He's like, oh, what?
Okay.
What's happening? And I was like, yeah, no. I just had like an anxiety moment where I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. This is too intense. And I was so nervous. But we went, he talked to me. He's like, okay, why don't you sleep on it? And we'll see. And he woke up at like 4 a.m. to go. He's like, come on, it's time to go. And I was like, I guess I'm going.
I guess I'm going again. Okay.
It was really fun.
What would you say your biggest takeaways from that experience were?
Man, just
because you were 15.
Yeah, the biggest thing that happened, my biggest memory from it was definitely my first person I went to share the gospel with was this girl that was like maybe 3 years younger than me.
Wow.
I opened the door. She was living with her dad. Her parents were, she had the same exact story as me, same struggle, same everything. And this is crazy. So my cousins are part Hispanic. And her little brother looked like spitting image of my cousin Christian, and she was really like, it was just wild. It was like, I know that sounds silly, but I was just like, whoa, I immediately felt way more comfortable. Like, he had the same jacket as my cousin and everything. And I was like,
that was the first set
we ended up just crying together. We weren't even speaking the same language. And I was like, this is crazy. Each night while we were there, we were changing. Wild. I don't think I realized after we left what we were doing. We were switching like this weird sex nightclub into a church for that neighborhood. It had just left, and so half the kids were also staying in those rooms. It was so weird. Like, these rooms are really weird. We know why now. The people were just so excited in that neighborhood. We were in Guatemala City, and we put on a VBS every single night after we do evangelism. And like, most people are Catholic down there and everything, but they hadn't really heard like. From what we understood, their view on things is like they never really understood the relationship with God. Every single person that you would go and talk to, they came like at night to come to our VBSs, and we'd worship in Spanish and in English, and everyone was singing the same song. No one, but like we couldn't understand, but like people would end up like holding hands and like crying with each other. And that girl and her little brother would come every single time, and it was just so sweet. Just a good reminder of all that, and it was just really cool. The people were unbelievably kind. They didn't have anything. Everyone's homes was like these little concrete 1-room, 2-bedroom homes. They told us when we went in, they're like, don't drink the water, don't eat the food, like whatever they give you. And I remember this houseless lady was so sweet, and she came in, she like gave us their dinner. All of like served it, and we had to sit there and not eat it, but like she wanted to talk to us and blah blah blah. And we asked her. There was like 13 people living in a 2-bedroom home. They were so sweet and so loving, and she gave us hugs and was crying. I just never met people who were so open to hearing about it. Even if they didn't accept, there was movement, there was seeds planted, because every single person we talked to was crying. A group of teenage boys, maybe 17 years old, they were like wanting to talk to us and ask us questions, not just because we were like, you know, girls or anything, but like they were interested. And they wanted to know what we were doing there. And we got amazing opportunities to go into the schools there. And the kids are so excited. They all wanted pictures with us. We got to play soccer games with them, and they loved my friend Carly. She's Korean. They loved my friend Carly, and they wanted pictures with us. And they called us the Americanos, and they're like, "Dos Americanos," because they wanted like they had two people, 2 Americans in one picture with them.
That's so cute.
It was just sweet to see how excited these kids were, and we got to play neighborhood soccer games with them. We hosted them at like they had like tennis courts. It was interesting, like this random park. And we had a culture day where we went into Antigua and saw the famous yellow church, and we got to meet them, like do the markets. It was just really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I felt extremely humbled by like how we live here and everything.
Yeah.
And I know that's typical of people that say that, but like you just don't understand until you're over there and you're seeing it.
And you were in it. Like, I've been to Jamaica and seen some very poor parts of Jamaica, but I wasn't living in it. I was there on a vacation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's different from going and actually digging in and doing. I've never done a missions trip.
And I'll say the difference, because I've been to like Turks and Caicos and places, you look around and you're like, oh, this is going to sound kind of weird, but it's like you pity that almost. But when you're in there, when I was in Guatemala, it wasn't like I was pitying them. It was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so loving and so like gracious for everything that you have. And you have like, it looks like to me next to nothing, but to you, it's like your whole life and your whole family and everything is
simpler.
It's so much simpler.
I'll show you the bag of clothes that he just had me get rid of. Like, it's insane what has just happened. We were talking about that before we hit record as well. Like, how he'll give you a different perspective. You gotta let him.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was holding on to that. Like,
it's weird what you don't think about till like, I don't know. We did it with food because that food was rough that we were eating. And I was like, wow, I'm such a snot about food. Oh my God.
Well, like, it's a much different culture and a much different environment to be in, for sure.
Well, the ingredients they have to cook with are limited for sure.
We did an American night. They made us hot dogs. They put guacamole on it.
Yeah.
And like other things. And I was like, whoa, and relish. I was like,
what's going on here?
Guys. Yeah. Tried papaya there, tried a lot of food. And the best snow cone of my life. Got super ill from the best snow cone of my life. Everyone who had the snow cone got whatever we called it. We called it the revenge when we came home. Literally, I think it affected my life for a whole year. So I was like, oh my gosh, my GI tract was not loving it. It was jacked. I had to see some special.
I can imagine.
But it was worth it.
Yeah.
Like, I joke about that stuff, and sometimes like that's the main story that I tell is like, let me tell you about what happened after. But I would do it over and over and over again.
Yeah. I don't know if you know that I lost my tooth in the airport. This front one, which one is it? This one?
Yeah. Cleveland Airport.
It came out when I was flossing at my sister. I told you I would hit it. It came out when I was flossing at my sister's on Sunday. And I was like, babe. And he came in and I was like, and it looked like the abominable snowman, the little single file tooth. I was like, yes. And then I discovered that it would snap back in and stay. And I was like, okay. Then I was chewing gum like an idiot in the Cleveland airport getting ready for this flight. And it pops out. It comes out. I feel it on my tongue. And then I hear it hit the floor.
No, in the airplane?
In the airport.
You can't put that back in your mouth.
Well,
we couldn't find it.
I would have gladly gone and washed it out with soap and put it back in my. But God was like, "No, I'm going to take you on a journey of that doesn't matter." Too.
He comes in those moments when you're feeling like I don't know.
That led me to the dentist chair, who led me to a woman who has a story very similar to mine. Who, as a result of our conversation, went back to church for the first time in a very long time.
That is really cool,
and that's glory to God.
There's like a verse, I should know this, but it talks about like our. Like God uses our struggles, like things that happen. I can't remember what it is, and I just heard it.
2 Corinthians 1:3-7. Well, that's the one that just hit me. It's I find all my comfort in Him when I struggle, so that when He comforts me, it will comfort those who go through the same thing.
That's exactly what it is, and I was like, oh my gosh, when I read that. I'm not gonna lie, like the past, like, I don't know, 3 years, I was like having a little bit of a pity party for myself on some things that have happened in my life. And I was like, I used to be so optimistic and so like chill, but I was like, I think I need to remember that verse. And it's a good reminder because just now I'm like, we're gonna start 2025 a little differently.
Yeah. Well, it's hard when, we have to each process in whatever way that we do.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was astounded at how much emotion came out of me on the conversation that I had with my father on the phone.
That's amazing.
Like, years of hurt came out of me. And I had to sit with the Lord and ask if I needed to owe Him an apology. And I did. And I had to do that when I went to Ohio. And I was trying to buck that the whole time. And I lost a tooth and I fell down some stairs. And God was like, are you going to go do it yet? I'll give you more signs if you'd like.
He's good at those signs. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, something that came to my mind when you were talking about when you didn't have pity on them, but they are living more simple. And it's here, it's almost like the devil has his fingers in everything. To just distract you with all the stuff that we have.
It's the opposite end, I think, of that. It's too much, creates too many distractions, and then we become more like the world and less like him.
It's so true. And I can go on and on about that one. Accurate.
Crazy.
It's a huge life change.
Log cabins,
when you see that stuff. Yeah.
Log cabins.
So you're 15, you just got back from this incredible mission trip. And I'm sure you'll process what that meant to your journey with God for a long time.
Oh yeah, and there's so many things that happened like in between then that led to there's so many stories within the stories of things that happened between that age. But I think that was like a turning point. And honestly, like I had a terrible middle school years. Like it was absolutely terrible. I would never live that back again. Ninth grade was a big turning point, and I truly think it's because I got deeper in my faith of understanding like what does it mean to live for God. You're not just a Christian who goes to church on Sundays. Like I think that's where I got the biggest wake up of my life. And after that, I was very dedicated to church, very into it. Now, I didn't end up going back to Guatemala like any of the times. So I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to fundraise for that. But it was really, I'm really so thankful that I got to do that at 15 years old. I'm very thankful that my parents let me go to a foreign country without either one of them.
That's what I was like.
They were so nervous.
I would be too.
That's testimony to your parents' walk with the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
You know, their strength in their relationship with the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to let their daughter go. You had to be.
It is.
Yeah, we let David go to Mexico.
Oh, that's right.
He did it twice.
That's right. That'd be scary.
It's hard. I couldn't. I was scared by myself, so I can't imagine like how they felt doing that. I'm like, oh geez. I thought they were being dramatic at the time, but you know,
you're like,
no. Now that I'm like 26, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see like, there was some trust right there with the grown-ups at our church.
Well, the chaperones going, it's like,
they were awesome.
Bring my kid back.
And remember, like my dad didn't go to First Baptist downtown Tulsa. That was like with my mom, and so my dad didn't know anybody that we were going with, and so I was like, whoa. And
that's like dad's protector, you know.
Oh yeah, and he's very protective of us. So I was like, wow, I can't imagine. And he travels a lot for his job, so he also is just seeing a lot. So he's like, you want to go to Guatemala? I'm like,
that's
we love you, Dad. We love you, Mom.
Thanks for protecting me.
So you said you called him and said, hey, I don't want to be in Guatemala. When was that? Like the first night you were there?
I said this like the night before I was supposed to leave for the airport.
Okay.
I like woke my dad up at 11 p.m.
Or he's like, we're going.
And you want to hear something crazy? This is just like a weird tidbit to that. I told him I didn't want to do that. So he was like, why don't you watch a movie to get your mind off everything? I love this movie. It's such a silly rom-com. Matthew McConaughey in it, Failure to Launch. So I watched that. The weird part is then I go to Guatemala and we're in the weird sex hotel with our friends. And on the TV is playing Failure to Launch in Spanish. And I was like, this is stupid. But I was like, I felt really calm. I was like, is God using Matthew McConaughey to give me a little wink wink of like, hey, you're supposed to be here.
Good.
When I was feeling overwhelmed again, I'm like, what are the odds that show would like pop up right when I was like, I'm so nervous.
That's not coincidence.
And it's like,
so God.
It was just silly, but I was like, God can use the weirdest things to like pop up. And I was like, you cannot make that up.
He's his kids. He knows how you're going to go, oh my, that is unmistakable to you. Thank you, Lord.
Exactly. And I'm like, why would this movie pop up in Guatemala? Like, what are the odds?
Exactly.
Because you were supposed to be there at that time, and that was to grow you and prepare you.
It was,
Look what you're doing now.
I know. It's kind of wild. It is wild, and that's been a journey on its own.
But you're like so good with the kids.
Oh, thank you.
Kids are also good with them.
I never thought I'd be working with kids or teaching.
It's like I watch you with the kids and how much they just love you and embrace you.
That's so sweet.
And how much, I mean, we love you too, but to watch them look up to you and see how you just love on them, it increases my faith. It's like every generation we need to have this.
Oh yeah.
We need to have the covenants of people who are doing the work.
It's really fun to be able to have that, because I thought when I graduated with the education degree, I was like, I'm not allowed to talk about God in the classroom. Like, this is so weird. And I was really just, I don't know. There was a lot of things and I was like, And then now getting to like work with kids and do that, which I never thought. Again, I said did not think I'd ever work with kids.
Right.
They're still not my specialty, but somehow we mesh well together. I'm young at heart. I think that's why.
Yes.
Can understand my
Guarantee
son.
that helps.
6-year-old.
I guarantee that helps.
Oh my gosh, no, I love it.
Yeah, but I came back and I was really on fire after Guatemala, and I was like getting all into my parents' business, like, do you really follow God? Do you know? And I was like, do you know? And I was like, is Papa saved? Is he saved? And I was like, I think I'm gonna have a conversation. And then we like go to his house. I was like, I'm actually too scared to talk to him. He's not even a scary dude, but I was like, this is weird it's weirder telling your, like, talking to your family about it than, like, it was for me to talk to complete strangers who didn't even speak my language.
Yeah, okay, that's the thing. They just put that in my head. Was it easier when you came back to evangelize to people now? Just especially Americans now, or you're just everyday people?
And no.
Okay.
And open was, I had that story of like, oh, you went somewhere exotic. Where did you go? Like, that was an opener.
Right.
But was it easier? Did I want to just like flat out start talking to them about it? No, I was a lot more hesitant because I've had issues in like middle school and other things in the past where I wasn't even talking about him and people would just call me really mean names.
I guess that makes sense. Because you knew you were going to probably see those people again.
There's almost like that, but then it's so sad. But we still wrote all back and forth for like a couple years. We wrote them and that family, that girl and her brother.
Wow.
But it was definitely
not like you're
easier.
Going to see them every day. Yeah.
There is a calmness about knowing that of like, you're not going to be in my everyday life. But I listened to a podcast not that long ago, and the best thing ever was like 30 seconds of awkward. What's that worth of like in the long run? And I'm like, gosh, you're really, okay, God, you're telling me something. Like, it's sometimes so awkward to bring it up because you don't know how people are going to respond. Yeah. I hate confrontation. So also, I never want to be like the person that offends someone.
Yeah. Or is the one that prevents them. It gets in the way like I do.
Yes. And so I'm always like, okay, God, you're not offensive whatsoever. But I really have learned, possibly with my generation, it's good to talk about it, but it's even almost better to show how to live. Because then I've had people like in college that were like, oh, those Jesus people, but you're pretty cool. You're really nice.
What's up with you? Yeah. What's going on? Yeah.
And so it opened up some doors out and like seeds are planted. And I mean, that's just all God. Like, finding comfort in remembering, like, since working in ministry, the biggest thing to remember is like, you're not saving the person, God is. Their salvation is not on you.
And that kind of takes,
it really changed like my mindset. And I still have to like think about that constantly. Like when I'm in the classroom, their salvation is not on me. I cannot tell them. I don't truly know, because a lot of people will be like, how do you know that they've already raised their hand 3 times? I'm like, God's working like in them through an invitation.
Keep raising
and I'm
their
like,
hand. What's wrong with raising your hand?
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they want to know. Like, that's cool. And so I just always remember, like, who am I to say that they're understanding? Who am I to say that they have accepted Christ or they haven't? And who am I to say that, I mean, like, I didn't save them, God did. And so giving it all, I think a lot of that, learning about that humility of that, Pastor Scott, oh my gosh, the most humble man on earth.
Like, you are speaking everything he is, but we have been talking about lately, like the humbleness that he is kind of bringing us to.
Yeah, it's almost scary how humble he is, because it's like, oh my gosh, you never want to emulate someone like on earth and put them up on a pedestal, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having like, I go in my mind where I'm like, I just want Scott to mentor me every single day of my life with something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just,
that's Pam Wanzer to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's Pam Wanzer to me.
She's so calming.
That's also David to me. There are certain people, I believe, and I don't know if this is biblical, but I think it is, who have that gift of kind of just having the peace of Jesus. I call him John the Baptist. He gets very, he laughs all the time.
Humble about it.
I'm like, good Lord. And he would be fine eating locusts and wild honey. I mean, it's bizarre. But I think that Pastor Scott has that too. It's
mine probably comes from the same as his, because his his illness, and then me going through cancer myself, and then losing my late wife. It truly puts everything. I don't really look at the world the same. I don't really look at it the same way.
It's like Scott's in the room with me right now. No joke. I'm like, when you talk like that, it's just like, wow.
We don't, because this isn't our home.
Well, and Pam losing her
husband.
I mean, look at the commonalities. Losing her husband, and then finding a man who was, again, equally yoked and loving the Lord like her, and for them to be walking through all of this physical stuff right now, right? Oh, yeah. Really walking through it. And like, literally, I'm like, oh my Lord, do you just dial and God picks up? Because that's how it feels.
Yes.
And isn't that nice to be able, I mean, I feel so peaceful in their presence.
Oh, I do for sure. And I'll go to him for the smallest things. He has just an open door policy. I'm so happy
he's awesome.
that I get to work with him. And I'm like, we should just share an office. To each other the entire time. We're bad talkers. So I'm like, we're big yappers.
No, but I think that's why our church is what it is.
Oh, for sure.
It's definitely,
believe
that's
because
why it's
you
so
all
shepherding.
have
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's unlike anything. We're so blessed to see that my sister's church in Ohio, where they have planted themselves and are in 2 life groups.
That's
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They jump straight in.
The Holy Spirit is alive and well there.
I was a tiptoer. I was like, let's just dip the toe in for a second.
Let's try it a little bit.
So I was like, I don't know. I'm a little busy, but
Right.
never too busy for God.
No,
so that's cool.
It's so neat to see everyone. All right, so where were we?
Sorry,
You come back.
And so
High school.
Yeah, I was 9th through so I was really, really close to God. And then I'm not gonna lie, like I had my hardest time was I started dating this guy who was at first my best friend in our friend group. And I met him at church actually. And I was 17. I was like a junior. We started dating. And we were really good friends sophomore year. So like there's nothing like I could tell, no red flags or anything. And, man, junior year was hard. Senior year was even harder. He cheated on me a bunch.
Oh man.
And he came out as like atheist later, and that was really hard. And it was just the most difficult.
After going through all the church,
it was super difficult.
Yeah.
I've never felt so challenged. And bringing up Scott again, he said something to me that like just took me backwards. Like, I wish I had known that, where it's like, you can't argue someone to know Jesus. And he always wanted to argue with me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't understand it. And it was really emotionally abusive, verbally abusive, and other abusive things that I was just like, this isn't good. And he made me feel like a terrible person, but I didn't truly understand. I couldn't see it when you're so close. Love is truly blind.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, and it was confusing because he was my best friend too. So I was so scared. I'm such a people pleaser that when he broke up with me so many times, like randomly, like Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, my birthday, he would just, and I'd be like, okay, well, he changed. It was such a bad thing. And he was my very first boyfriend and first
so many things that are attached to that.
There's so many things, and we were all in a friend group, and it was just like high pressure, and I was too embarrassed to tell my parents a lot of the things that were like happening. So I was like, oh, I never wanted to be one of those girls that had like a bad boyfriend. And his parents even told me like, get out of this relationship with him. And it was just so hard. He's very charismatic. My mom used to call him Old Silver Tongue, and we were like, oh gosh, like he was super charismatic, and everyone loved him. He had a really good mask on, and it was just really hard. And so we actually were on and off for 5 years.
Wow. Oh gosh.
Till I was like a sophomore or junior, between my sophomore and junior year of college. So that was something that was really hard. I really tried to stay really strong in my faith. But I really struggled with him. After he told me he's an atheist, like I knew it was wrong that I was dating him, but I was like, I can't get past this. I just knew it in my heart. And I knew there's like a difference between like someone not understanding and someone actively trying to change your mind about what your faith is.
Yes.
And he wanted me to explain faith, and I couldn't. And he had so many hurts from who knows what.
Yes. Unprocessed.
Who knows what. And he was taking it out on me. And I was always the safety, and since I was a people pleaser, I'm like, I think I could be better this time. Like, I think I could be what he wants me to be this time.
You could save him or fix him.
Yeah, and it was
like
almost
anyone you know
like that. It was crazy, and so that was, like I said, on and off for 5 years. We never dated longer than a year. It was just so hectic and so up and down, and it was wild. And at the same time, all that was going on, my there's a very turbulent time period from 6th grade to, again, sophomore year of college. My mom had married this man. And so that was really hard. And there was ups and downs of like, we love him. We hate him. We love him. You're crazy. He ended up being crazy. And so at the same time, they were having a lot of marital issues. And that put like so much weird strain. My mom was taking out a lot of things on us, but I didn't understand why. Because at the time, I didn't know like what was going on. And she, no one in my family liked this guy. And so that was also hard for her.
Yeah.
And so all this this time the stuff was going on, it led me, like, it made me feel like a kid again. I'm like, there's so much conflict. And when I was a kid,
I was just thinking that. Is some of that
I hate
your
my
parents splitting up?
Mine did too.
Yeah, it was like, they're such good people, but every person has, you know.
Oh, you have your hurts that blind you.
Yes, and I always try to remind people, like, when you come into contact, like, I was like, people do weird things when they're getting a divorce. Like, they're not them.
No,
and I can see
their
it
whole
firsthand.
life is changing, and the grief is like suffocating.
Oh yeah, and like me and my sister were definitely like my parents' therapist at 8 and
That's
12.
what I was wondering. Did that flavor you a little bit on why you kept taking him back?
Oh yeah,
you're like,
and my mom pinpointed it together. She's like,
fail maybe.
Yeah, I didn't want to fail because I was like, my parent, like, I had it stuck in my head. I'm like, my parents couldn't make it work, but I can make it work. Mom was like, you're not married to this guy. Like, you don't have to.
God.
Thank you. Literally, there's so many things that happen.
Girl, I did it 3 times.
It was intense. And it was just wild. And so,
but it doesn't, like, for me, when you're talking about this, it reminds me of my 3rd marriage very much. So praise God that you didn't make a covenant with that person and then discover it then.
It was so bad.
That was my 3rd marriage. So I get it. And I'm just so thankful that I don't want to take away any of the pain that you felt.
No,
but
that's actually like really good
praise
to hear.
God, he got you out of that before that.
Sure.
There's a different layer to, you've been divorced how many times? Or what is your last name now?
Yeah.
What, are you white? Are you, and I mean, that was actually said to me at my school in Ohio. And I was like, there's nobody that beats me up more than me. So back off. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And it's so true. And it's so embarrassing too, because you never want to be that guy or girl that's like, oh my gosh, I'm that story when you watch them on a movie and you're like, you're an idiot.
What are you doing?
Yes. And it's like, you can't see it. But in the end, my friend Mackenzie was really pivotal in continuing my relationship with God. Wow. She really came into her relationship with God our freshman year of college. Like, she was the one that grew up Catholic.
Or Mackenzie?
Mackenzie,
we love you.
We do love you. We're still besties to this day.
That's awesome.
We've known each other for a very long time, and what she just helped me through so much through college, and really just reminding me of, like, what would God want you to do? Like, is this bringing you closer to God or tearing you apart? And it was tearing me apart. And we even went to Falls Creek my senior year, and me and her sister, we had a pact. We're like, okay, because we talked to our leader, and we're like, we're going to break up with these guys because she had not good.
Yeah.
We both broke up with, he broke up with me when I came back. She broke up with hers, and then I was like, oops. And then I got back together with them, and I was like, sorry, Savannah.
Sorry.
It was just so many things that led up, and her family's been so pivotal, and just they were a really good show for me of, like, what it looks like to have a healthy marriage and healthy relationship. My parents are wonderful, and they taught me so many other things, but that was one thing I felt like I really lacked. Is I was like, not blaming them whatsoever. But it was hard for them to understand why I kept staying. But I was like, I don't really know. I don't have a good
their way.
Yeah, I was like, I don't have a good model at all of what, like, marriage is. Like, they dated, but that's not marriage. And also they were still processing their divorce while dating other people. So I'm like, y'all weren't. That's not what I want when I get married, you know?
No.
And I love them very much, but that was something hard. I realized really early on, it was a lesson of, like, your parents aren't perfect.
Yes.
And I never wanted to.
That.
Yeah, it was a hard lesson to really.
I think we put people. We do. I think we put our parents on a pedestal without even knowing that we do it.
Oh yeah,
and we just don't realize they're hurt sinners too.
Yeah, and I held them up on such a high pedestal, so I was like, "You're jacked up." Like,
well, they're also working. And their operating system is from whatever they grew up with, hurt or whatever else.
And what he's been helping me to see, and God has been helping me to see, is when we're all in heaven together, we're all going to be sisters and brothers in Christ. So let's practice that now.
Yes.
Regardless of the title that we got and the fleshly hurts that we have imparted upon each other.
Yeah.
With what we didn't know. You know, he's definitely been ministering that to me lately through what's, my conversations with my dad and owning my part in things and realizing that my hurts have not all been extinguished.
Oh yeah.
Gone.
It's true. And there's still moments to this day where it's like, I gotta let that go. And it's like hurts against my mom or dad. And therapy's been like the best thing. It really hit me in my 20s. Like, I knew my parents weren't perfect at a young age, but I was 8 years old is so hard to understand, like, truly what's going on.
What's going on?
Parents tell you 2 different things when there's a divorce going on, all this stuff. So I just decided, like, honestly, like, I still remember this, like, this is part of my testimony, was like, the only person I felt like I could trust was God at that time. Because I was like, Mom's telling me something different. Dad's telling me something different.
Yeah.
Sarah's telling me something. What's the truth? And I didn't want to choose. My sister had a hard time, and she really sided with my dad on a lot of things. And
she's 3 years older, right?
Yeah, so she was 12 whenever she understood a little bit more. And she took on a lot of the brunt of stuff for me as a kid. And I didn't realize that till like I got kind of older. And I was like, man, that's great. And she and my mom had a really rocky relationship, was also really hard for me, because I was like, everyone, like, I'm a peacekeeper of my family, so I'm like, let's just chill.
You are. You're so you have such a sweet
I hate
heart.
I can be really sassy and blunt. It's
that's when you actually love it. Like when someone who is so sweet, like, you know, and then when you say something, I'm like, yes.
It comes out.
Like when you guys were shooting, you and your mom in the range.
Oh yeah, we're so competitive.
I was like, that was amazing. The sassiness.
Oh, we're so competitive. My family is like super sarcastic. I had people come home from like staying with me in middle school and like, your family's really sarcastic. And I was like, is that a bad thing?
Really? I don't know.
Are you not like this at home? Like, what?
No, I love it. I love it.
But yeah, it was just a lot. And so trusting God, I really realized like he is probably the only one I could really trust. Yeah. And you go in and out of that lesson. Like I don't continuously remember that from 8 to whenever. But
I agree with that. Yeah.
What it was, sorry, I'm like jumping all over, but it's kind of, it all meshes.
No, it's
but
good.
I ended up breaking up with him because with Mackenzie, we went on vacation and she had some really wonderful cousins. And we went on vacation with them. They're guys and they're super sweet. And my dad was always good to us, but it was so different. And I was like, well, this is how guys are supposed to treat you. Like, we're all friends and I'm not even dating you. And you're being super nice to me and you're really supportive. And it was just crazy. And I had met them a couple years prior. And not my proudest moment. I had been tipsy. It was my first time ever drinking. I was 19. We went to Turks and Caicos together on our senior trip, and my parents okayed it. But like, nothing too crazy. But I learned like the first time I got really emotional, and I just blabbed to her cousin, and he's like, "That's not normal. Well, your relationship's not normal."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." And so. That's a weird part, but it was like eye-opening. It played a part in that.
That's
and that
awesome.
Same cousin was so kind and nice to me again on that trip in Florida. And this ex started getting really creepy, and I had planned to work at Yellowstone that summer. I love national parks and everything. So me, well, he had actually applied too and called and made us roommates and everything. It ended up being really creepy for me. And I was my dad was in Florida with us.
That's
and
like violation.
It was so stressful. We weren't really dating at the time, but we were kind of talking. It was a weird mix.
Well, but clearly it wasn't something that you would follow through with. That kind of
absolutely sheer panic. And then my dad was driving. We're family friends with the DeWitts, so we went with them. And driving home, he was like, "You're so quiet." Everyone knows I'm not a quiet person, so he's like, "What's your thing?" I like forced myself to sleep because I was so nervous to tell my dad, and I was like, "I don't know what to do. I'm really scared. I was supposed to leave the next day." So we get home, and I went to my mom's, and I just called her, and I called my aunt Janie, and I called all my cousins. We're really close with them. And I just said, "This is what's happening. I don't know what to do." And they're like, "Don't go. No one's going to be mad at you if you don't go to Yellowstone." We'd already planned a vacation. They were going to come see me. And she's like, "We can keep it and you can come with us." She's like, "You'll still get your adventure." But she was like, "Don't go." And I was like, okay. So that next day I went to my mom's work, and her coworker Patty's amazing, and she was like, "I think you need to break up with him." I was like, "I can't do it in person because he's really charismatic." And she was like, "Just do it over the phone. In fact, I'll call him for you." And I was like, let's not do that. And she hyped me up and sang me like a hype up song to it. And I went in the parking lot, and I ended up calling him and said, "Hey, I can't do this, and I'm not going to go to Yellowstone. And I don't think I can ever see you again." It was like really hard, but I honestly cried so hard after that. But it was like tears of joy, and that was like the best summer I had in like 4 years. That previous, I was like, oh my gosh, like I had the best summer of my life. I got a job at First Baptist. I worked with the preschoolers, like, because I didn't have a job lined up, and it was really hard to find one in Tulsa and everything. Everyone had already been hired for the summer, so I ended up not getting a job till July, and it was honestly a really great month. I really read a lot of Bob Goff books. Everybody Always Love Does. I'd say one of the biggest gifts God ever has given me, I think is my spiritual gift, is like forgiveness, because I would forgive him over and over again. But then that was just truly like the biggest summer of forgiveness for me. Forgiveness to him, forgiveness to myself, because I really was mad at myself for things that had happened and
for allowing it possibly to
I
go
felt
on.
like I'd allowed it, but then, I went to therapy and it's like, hey, that wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
There was some stuff where it's like, I really had no control over that, but I did have control of like, saying no, like, oh, we're going to end this.
But I feel like you can't, like, I look at that with being married and divorced 3 times, and David is my 4th marriage. But I look at that and I don't remember every episode, one time every episode it comes and then it leaves.
You're like, what's happening?
So we're gonna cut that part out.
No, we're gonna leave it in like we did the last one.
No, you
one thing you gotta leave it in, so then when it's like 5 more episodes, you actually remember it, and it's like everyone can see it.
Color now.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know.
That's good. But
so that summer, did you feel like free because you didn't have to like try to please him or please other people? So we're like, I can just be Leah and not.
Oh my
I don't have to worry about anybody but me this summer.
Yes, and I was a super happy-go-lucky person, and I felt like I hadn't been that. I literally there was so much stuff going on with my personal life between my parents and my
and that
mom
whole experience.
And that whole experience, I got on antidepressants and anxiety medicine my senior year because I was having really bad panic attacks. I was already like super highly anxious all throughout school, and I'd had panic attacks before, but I didn't understand what they were.
I totally relate.
And my doctor was really helpful. He was like, hey, Leah, like, you can have boundaries with people. You can tell them you can't hear. She really helped me understand. I don't have to be my parents' therapist.
But
I don't have to
say
be
that, you're going, I can't.
I know. I was like, I can't do it, Galena. I can't.
Yeah.
I literally, she's like, yeah, you can. And you're going to.
And you're like, I don't know about that.
I really did. And it took a lot of courage. And it, anytime you have those conversations, like, it's so weird putting boundaries up with your parents. But they know it's healthy, but it's really hard for them. And you feel like you hurt them, and you kind of feel like the biggest jerk on earth. Because it's like, oh, my parents. Yeah. Because it's your parents and you want to take care of them. And I care so deeply. And we've always been such a close-knit family that it's like really hard to be like, hey, you got to find somebody else to tell this stuff to, because I positively cannot hear it one more time.
Well, the thing that I'm finding out, even at 49, is our parents should be, I mean, obviously when they get older and, you're going to take care of them, but like when they can take care of themselves, the kids should not be the ones that need to take care of them. It's like, I'm living my life. You need to, and then also start preparing for your end of life. Don't wait and just say, well, my kids will take care of me. That's not fair to them either.
No.
So,
and luckily my parents are never on that side of like that, but the emotional side of stuff. Yeah. And it, oh man, I had in my head, what was I going to say with that? You said something that really jogged my memory, but, this is what it was. I think I was really putting my own fear of like, I hate being lonely. I hate it so much. So then I was always scared of like, my parents are lonely. My parents are this. I don't know if they're lonely. I was just putting that narrative in my head.
And
I was like,
you needed to be there for both of them.
Yes. And that's something
if you're a saver, you probably felt responsible to like, oh my gosh, okay, all right, now,
And like I would say not all, but most kids don't see their parents in such a traumatic situation of like their parents being in emotional distress. I know your kids have, and I did see my parents. And so that was just something that was like kind of triggering. And so I was like, oh, I've seen them hurt so bad. A lot of people haven't seen their parents be so depressed or so down or so like, who are you? You're not my parent, like you're not mom, you're not dad. And that was just something that like still in my mind, I'm like, I got to take care of them because, oh my gosh, I don't want them to be alone. Or they'll still tell you like, I'm a little lonely, or you can see it. And it's like, oh, this is so hard. But I really have to remember like, that's not my responsibility.
Yeah. It's their life they're living. Yeah.
Yes. And it is hard because I actually do live at home still with my dad. Yeah. Because, ministry, but I think that's a big lesson.
She said ministry.
It's a big lesson. I think I've always been a really independent person, and I truly think since a couple years ago when I moved back home, God's been really humbling me in that. And there's always the idea of like, what are you going to sacrifice to follow God? And I'm like, I guess it's my independence of being able to provide for myself, because I always am so embarrassed. I'm like, people are going to think that I'm not working hard or I'm not like a go-getter.
I can tell you right now, and this from our age and being where you're at now, it was way easier to get an apartment and a car and just get out on your own when we were 26 than it is.
It has changed
It's almost
tremendously.
impossible for you
And
at your age right now.
My parents are really
There's no way you're walking into a
comforting.
house right now. There's no way.
No, my parents are super comforting about that. They never make us feel bad about, hey, I need your help paying for this new car. I need your help doing this. And like, we always pay them back there. But letting us live there, and shout out to my dad, because I don't have to pay anything. He's really so
that
sweet.
will help you get started when you're ready to buy a house.
He says, pay your student loans, pay your gas, pay your car stuff, pay your medical bills. I got the rest.
He's helping you launch well.
Yeah,
he is.
What he's doing.
Because he's like, it's not easy. He was 17 when he moved out, and he was like, that was hard, but I can't imagine now. He's super into stock, so he's like, inflation.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
He gets it. And my parents, and they're like, you can live here as long as you want. There's nothing embarrassing about it. We know you work. We know you try hard. And especially when we were going through school, my parents were really supportive, because I worked a full-time job while going to school, and I did 21 hours my last 3 years of college.
If my eyes could cross, they would have just crossed.
It was crazy.
Wow, that took my breath away. 21 hours.
That took God. And I worked at Ron's full-time, and I was working at the end of it. I was doing my internship, and I was working at the church, like very, very part-time. I was helping them out. It
makes me want to throw up.
It was like, I didn't have a dog at the time, so it was totally doable. And I was 23, so I was like, I have a lot of energy. It was, well, looking back, I'm like, what were you doing? Would not recommend getting 3 jobs. Would not recommend getting a full-time job in college unless you have to.
Yeah.
But I was a little into, still to this day, I'm humbled by it. I'm really drawn to money. I want to be super successful. I want to be able to provide. Like, my biggest dream in life is like, I was going to be an architect, and I was going to create resorts, and I was going to buy my parents a house and pay all their debts. And I remember I was like, I would tell my parents that all the time. And I'm like, what if I can't do that? My parents don't care. They're like, we're going to love whatever you do.
So you're serving the Lord. That's better.
Yeah, they're really
That's better
happy.
than
I
paying
want
our
to meet
debt
your
off.
dad. I had the pleasure. I do. I've had the pleasure of meeting your mom and getting to know her a little bit, and her energy makes me smile. She's very I'm sure she's still processing a ton of things.
Oh yeah,
but she's very
that'll be
kind.
forever.
I know her heart loves Jesus.
Oh yeah, I have the most I'll say this. I have the most nurturing parents ever. They're for us. It's crazy.
And then does he go to church?
He does. He travels a lot for his job, so he actually does go to our church. But sometimes he'll be gone for like a month or two.
Oh, when he's there next, please make sure.
Yeah,
I would love to meet him.
Really nice. It's funny. Him and my mom are complete opposites, but he's really It's funny. My sister's an introvert, but me, my dad, and my mom are very bubbly, talkative people. He'll talk to anybody. But he's like a challenger. He likes to kind of shock people to see what their initial response is. So sometimes he says some pretty off the wall stuff, and I'm like, oh gosh, Dad. But that's also just like, I'm sure Emily does stuff too, where she's like, Dad, oh my gosh, why are you saying this? Or Amy, what are you doing?
I'll say it for her, like, she said no.
It's just like a fun parent kid. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh, you're used to them, but then you're like, wait. This person may not know that he's joking, or that this is like an inside joke with us. He's very passionate about this for some reason, just whatever it is. And I'd love to introduce you guys. He's had his own life journey that I don't even. He's a remarkable person to me. As more I get older, I learn about what he went through, and I'm like, it just helps me understand him better as a person.
As you get to know them both on an adult,
it's different.
Because you're an adult now.
Yeah.
And it's a different relationship.
Big time.
Low key, like, you're like, ignorant is bliss. Sometimes I wish I could go back not knowing, but honestly, it's like, this is really helping me understand.
And prepare you.
It really helped me with personalities and just different, because every single person, me and my mom are really similar, but every single person in my family has like a complete different personality. We have very strong, independent people that, it just happens. But no, it's just really good. I'm very thankful for them, and how I just like, I always think there's moments where I have the pity parties where I'm like, why does this keep playing part? There's been ups and downs of my parents kind of getting back together, and then not this past couple years. And so this past year was super hard about that. Of like, oh, I'm living it again, deja vu.
Yeah.
This kind of sucks. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm 8 years old again. And therapy helps, guys. It really does.
I'm literally going through a similar concept with my father right now, reliving hurts from my childhood because of things happening right now as he's in a nursing home and we're attempting to care for him.
Yes, it's hard. And you're like, why was I was so much stronger when I was a kid in high school. I was like, when I was dealing with this stuff, I was like, I don't know why it's harder all of a sudden now. But
I think we let it stay trapped inside and it had to come out. It has to come out.
So. Boxer upper, and I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. If you guys do that kind of stuff, so I'm like, let's not.
Yep.
I like to just focus avoidance. My therapist knows that avoidance is my favorite form of
put it in a box and just put it on the shelf. You don't have to worry about it.
It feels easier at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's like, ooh, this one's a doozy.
So let's fill it with hobbies and friends and other things. Yeah. But as I got
one thing that could help is like, obviously do it, but they're adults.
Yeah.
And they're living their own life. So it's like, you guys have at it. Have fun. But don't expect me to be diving into your world again. It's like,
but it's hard. Sometimes you fall into those old patterns of like, wait, oh man, they're telling me this, and it's mid conversation. I can't just be like, quit talking to me about this. Yeah. So once you open that door, then it's easier for it to keep trickling in. And then sometimes I'm just like, don't respond, don't say anything, and they'll kind of pick up. But then it comes off just like rude, and I'm like, as you're an adult, when you live with parents as an adult, it's like you just get really irritated at each other for absolutely no reason, like just
because you're living in each other's space.
Well, because you're not a child anymore. It's an adult relationship,
and it's hard for them.
You're just like, what are you doing? To remember,
man? Hey, Dad, I know how to chop zucchini. I lived by myself for 4 years in college. Like, I hope you remember. Hey, Mom, I know how to do this. Like, you know what I mean? It's really silly things. It's silly things, and they know this. Like, I literally would be like, get out of the kitchen when I'm in here. Like, I refuse to cook because I'm like, you just. Oh my gosh. You're doing it. Get out. And it's just so funny because I'm like, I know how to do this. He's like, but I know an easier way. He's also a very I'm right person. And I'm like.
And he sounds like he wants to, like he's wants to be a teacher.
He is. And I'm such a.
What is it? What is his living? What does he do?
Question. He's a field service representative for Siemens Energy.
Okay.
He works with a lot of different stuff. So he goes in, he used to be a mechanic for American Airlines for 25 years. And then there was like all those layoffs that happened. He didn't get laid off, but he was like, hey, I think I'm going to, so I'm going to get this new job. So then he started traveling a lot, gone to some really cool places. But what he practically does is he, like right now, example, he's on a steam compressor and like a gas turbine engine team. And he goes to all these different, it could be anything, refineries. It could be some kind of manufacturing. It's the wildest thing. He's been to lumber yards, like whatever their equipment is, he goes and he tells them like how to fix it and what to do. And then a lot of their safety stuff. He does a lot of stuff with OSHA, but it's an interesting time. So he does tell people what to do for a living. And when he's gone for a couple of months, he comes back and it's like,
let me chop the zucchini for you.
I'm not your mechanic.
I got it.
Not on that crew, Dad. This is the family crew.
Yeah, he's been to some such cool places, and it's really entertaining. He's been to some not so cool places.
I would imagine.
So. Yeah, and my mom does, if anyone's wondering, my mom does physical therapy.
That was my next question.
She's a physical therapy assistant. She's done that since she was in her 20s, and she's fantastic.
I remember her. Yeah.
And I think that plays a part. She's such a nurturing person and she loves people. And so I think that's just the perfect job for her.
Both of your hearts are like so incredibly sweet.
Oh, thank you.
Just kind and warm and welcoming.
Thank you. I love you guys are two kindred spirits right in this room.
Okay, so sweet. College?
Yes. College. What
were you doing? What did you have an idea of what you were doing? In college?
Let's start for the freshman year. Going in, all my life I wanted to be an architect. And then I was like, I'm going to do landscape architecture. I love being outside and everything. And so I go in Fayetteville. Let's go. University of Arkansas. It was a great time. My whole life, I'm like, God, you have just, put me through it. But it's because you have such big plans, I think. And it was real. It's also just like a blessing. It's not just he put me through it. Like, how many people not a lot of people get to go out of state like that and go for what they want, which quickly in the first week I learned on that Friday of my first week, I said, hey Mom, I don't want to do this. I don't want to change my degree.
Well,
that was my question is going through out of Ecuador and then you said you were kind of Guatemala. You were kind of hit or miss with church after that.
Yes, I wanted
so he didn't
phases.
Call you to
No, he did.
ministry.
I just didn't listen.
Okay.
So I came home and I was like, I think I'm going to be a missionary. Like, I was like, I think that's what I want to do in the long run. Did I know what that meant? Not truly.
Right.
And then you go through the phases of like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to be a pilot. Variety is the spice of life. And I love it. I love variety and I love change. I love challenges.
Okay.
So my mind, I kind of put, obviously, while dating my family, my family calls him Voldemort. He should not be named.
Okay.
Literally no hate to this, like, whatever, forgiveness. I don't truly think he was an evil person. He just had hardships of his own.
Things he had not processed yet.
Yeah, and he was a teenage boy, so whatever.
Hormones are going.
Gosh,
Well, and he has a story too. I mean, we just all do.
Who knows what it is, but he has.
Right.
It's true. But so with that, like, I was still close to God, but I felt really mixed up of like, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do? But all my life, I loved houses. I loved building things. Built doll houses with my dad. I used to draw. I'd make magazines when I was a kid of like all the architecture magazines and Better Homes and Gardens. Like, I loved it. And I was always really artistic and I loved being creative and super active. So I was like, this is the perfect job for me.
So that's what you're like, that's what I'm doing.
That's what I wanted to do. Okay. And I felt like I was like, yeah, I have all these gifts of different things. Like, I think this is cool. And senior year, I'm not gonna lie, I got baptized senior year, which was awesome. That came back into play. I understood. My parents said, don't get baptized unless you understand what it means. And then my senior year, I got baptized at Falls Creek in high school. And then I started freshman year, which was really helpful. Yeah. So that really helped. I would say from that point on was when I was really like internally like, should I be dating this guy? Should I not? It really,
my life changed when I got baptized too.
It was the best thing that could have happened to me before I started college, because I think a lot of people go into college and they get lost in the scene.
Yeah.
I even did it where I was super anxious, and so I only had like a 1 month party phase.
That's a big college too.
It's huge. My classes had 300 people in them. It was wild. Our program had 175 presentations. Were so scary.
I bet so.
But it was hard, and I had a lot of, I was like, I don't think I should be doing this. I had really great conversations with my friend Mackenzie my whole freshman year of, she would grow up Catholic, so she's like, you got to get into heaven through good works, blah, blah, blah. I felt like we had really good, healthy discussions every single night till like 3 a.m. about all different kinds of things. And she ended up going to like a program called Kaleo through her sorority, and it was really beneficial to her. Not saying what she was doing was wrong by any means. She believed in God and loved him and believed that Jesus, but she said, I was totally missing the relationship part. She has a great story of her own. I don't want to tell her story in case one day.
Of what you call yourself in a religious format, all in my experience boils down to a relationship with him.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I think just throughout that, there was always Jesus in that mix, always conversations with people.
God, it sounds like she was so intricate.
She is.
And helping
such a deep person. She's such a deep, soulful person. I love her to death. She's also like such a happy person.
I can't wait to meet her too.
You're gonna love her. She's so cute and adorable.
As are you.
Yeah. But that really helped. And I called my parents that Friday and I said, yeah, I hate this. I'm going to switch my major. And they said, no, you're not. You're going to do a semester and you need to try it for a semester. You just had 1 week. Long story short, I changed it at semester. I had the great idea. I said, I'm just going to do horticulture because I love plants and everything. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Loved second semester. It was fantastic. Loved it. Don't do your hobbies in college because then you quickly start to hate them. I started hating gardening. And it was, this sounds so pretentious, but it was so easy. It was boring me. But then, chemistry came and I actually had to switch my major because I could not pass chemistry. It was one of the most embarrassing moments. And I was going to have to take 6 different chemistry classes to earn that degree. And then with what I wanted to do, I was going to have to go get my PhD. And I was like, I can't do this. I truly went to tutoring. I did everything I could. And I was like, it's going to kill me to take 6 more years of this. And I couldn't even pass Chem 1.
You're like, I'm in trouble.
It was rough. So I called and I told my parents, I'm switching again. And I switched to hospitality because I was like, I love people. I want to go work at Disney World.
That's where it went? Like architecture to Disney World?
Telling you, I also had my friend Allison Williams. She was a mess and she also switched her major. we learned later on, the actual psychology department hated the architecture program at Fayetteville because it is so toxic and unhealthy. 175 people go in, only about 25 graduate and make it through all 5 years.
Which department?
The architecture.
Architecture, Faye Jones School of Design.
It's just hard or what?
It's just really hard. I had some of the meanest professors, and they tried something new. He publicly humiliated me in class. It was traumatizing. I called my aunt crying. I was like, I looked dumb, but it was okay. Wow. He made a mistake, and he thought I had made the mistake, and I was like, oh gosh. But
and the approach could have certainly been better.
It was intense, but it's just like it's 12 to 5, but you're really there from 12 to 3 a.m. in the morning. People slept in dog beds underneath their desks. It is a different world. It is not for the weak. I'll tell you what, some people probably loved it, but I was like, my mental health and everything, and every architect that came and spoke to us, I gave it so many chances, but every architect thing, if you want a family, if you want to have a life, don't be an architect. They were all depressing and weird. The only one that wasn't was this guy from Sweden, and he was the coolest, and I loved his architecture. Amazing. But other than that, every single person was super depressed and super cynical.
This isn't for me.
I'm not a cynical person, which I know I could be a light in that area, but also there was the idea of once you graduate, then you have to take a test, and then it was 7 or 8 years you have to work under a licensed architect before you get to become
your own.
Where you can draw stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, geez. And it was a lot of, I was really good at the computer work, but apparently I was a terrible craftsman. Oh my gosh, my models were borderline. It looked like a kindergartner did them. I was like, my computer stuff is amazing, my renderings, but I was like, this is bad. My line drawings, fantastic. Anything sculpture-wise, I would laugh when I was presenting. It was so embarrassing. But I switched my major again, not talking to God about it or anything. Yeah. But I did find a really great church out there called Cross Church. It took a while to find a church out there, but
it's hard.
It was really awesome. I loved it. They had great stuff. No matter what, every Wednesday night we tried to go to a church service because we're like, we can't, we both had a wee bit of a phase our first year. We're so anxious that we started doing social drinking and it really wasn't good. And I snapped out of it pretty quick. But since she was in a sorority, it was really hard for that culture. And she had a really hard time. Not saying that she had a hard time stopping drinking because she didn't have a problem whatsoever, but it was just that culture and everything. Yeah. But then later on, she made some really good friends, found some really great girls in that group. But so I switched to hospitality with my friend Allison, and I quickly realized how materialistic it is. And simultaneously at the same time, I didn't want to, but my friend Mackenzie said, this would be good for you. Working at Potter's House was a charity thing out there. And I did a mentor program with at-risk kids from, I can't remember what's in Right Vice. I think it's Springfield or Springdale. Something's out by Fayetteville, but it was at-risk teens. So we mentored them kind of like big brother, big sister. And something just came alive in me where I was like, I love seeing these kids succeed. I love helping them. I love seeing them come back and be excited. Hey, I got an A on that paper you helped me write. Hey, we help them fill out college applications. They're all at risk for not going to college for further on or dropping out of school. So it was really cool to see all of them succeed, and just they had some hard lives. But it was so fun, and they were the funniest kids ever. Wow. You're just like, did you just say that? It was so funny. And so that was really cool. And all of this to say, this all happened, and then I went to vacation, broke up with that guy. God was just on my heart. That whole summer, I got a lot going on. I ended up, what did I do? It was in sophomore year, in between semesters, went home and was living with a great group of girls, including Mackenzie. I went home and I was like, Mom, I think I kind of want to do something else. I've been really working with all these kids and it's really fun, but I don't quite know what. But I think I need to move back to Oklahoma and because I was paying out of state. So I was like, I think I should go do something in Oklahoma. And a couple of our friends, including Mackenzie's boyfriend, now husband, was going to NSU, and we had visited them a couple times because we were all a close-knit group. And I really liked the university. I was like, this is cool. I really enjoy this. Great culture, great people. And I ended up coming back, and at the same weekend, I never really talked to Mackenzie about anything, and we were like, hey, I gotta talk to you about something. She's like, yeah, I do too. And we're like, oh snap, what is this gonna be? I'm so scared. And at the same, we're just like, well, we'll say it at 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm transferring to NSU. We're like, whoa, this is crazy. She went to architecture with me as well. She stuck with it and then died slowly every single semester. It was so bad.
Painful death.
Yeah. Painful death. She did.
Gosh. She probably wishes she could. Oh, it's so painful when you all that time, and then you're like, am I not even gonna?
We always joke, we're like, you made a semester in architecture, you can make it in anything. You went through a Dempsey's class, you can make it through anything. It was next level. I cannot explain that program, but someone else would probably be like, it was fantastic. Why are you being such a baby? No. It was really hard for me, but it was.
I love that
truly
you didn't
cool.
just settle for whatever because you thought it was what you were supposed to do. You kept listening to God talking to you, and you're like, no, this really is not. And you're still only 26.
Yeah, he presented a lot of moments where I was like, but I'll tell you what, that was the hardest thing. I'm sure you guys can tell, just like being parent and step parent of like my parents. I probably made them have so many like heart attacks over the phone, and my dad's like, you gotta pick something. Like, he was not the most gentle, and my mom's like, college is the time to figure out what you want to do. But my dad was like, you're spending money and you better figure it out quick. And he's like, you're changing every semester. And I'm like,
that's not what I want to do.
After architecture, I wanted that my whole life. I felt really lost. I was like, I don't know what to do.
No kidding.
Yeah. And they made you start out in engineering architecture, and I wanted to do landscape. It was the first year that they did that program where they put interior design, landscape, and architecture all together. They quickly changed it after our group. So many people dropped. It was hard.
So,
wow, hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, hard lesson to learn. So God was in the mix, and then my parents were ecstatic. And so I actually ran out of money. So I moved back home and I did NSU BA, and I wasn't sure what my degree was going to be in yet. And I almost went into digital marketing. Don't know why. I just thought it sounded cool. Digital journalism marketing. I hate writing. I don't know what I was thinking. So then I was like, no, you know what I need to do? I need to do education, because I really enjoyed. So I was going to do secondary education. And then quickly after a couple shadows, I was like, they think I'm in their class. I can't do this. Like, they're not going to respect me. I had like full on panic. Even middle schoolers thought I was, when I was interning with Harold Dotson, 6th grade class, they thought I was, those kids at Prettywater are tall. They thought I was a new student. And I'm like, I'm wearing dress slacks. Like,
I'm your teacher.
I'm your teacher. But anyways,
totally.
I switched into elementary education, did Broken Arrow, super lonely. I had so many friends at Arkansas and such a good group of girls. And then all of a sudden I moved back home, and I was like, all my friends are at school. I feel really lonely. I was going to Broken Arrow. I prayed. I got really close with God at that time. I was super content in being single. I loved being single. I didn't have anybody ask me out. I never had anybody show any interest, and it was honestly, like, it didn't faze me.
That's what you needed.
It's what I needed. It did not faze me whatsoever.
You needed to start the healing on that.
I did, and I had really good friends, and they were all, like, God just blessed me in a lot of things, like super platonic friends with guys, just being able to understand what it could,
that's healthy.
God, it's healthy, and it's okay. You can just be friends with people, and it was really nice, and I had some really great friends at Arkansas and architecture too. They were fantastic. But moving back was lonely. Prayed to God forever, because I was like, I'm so lonely. I want friends. Like, I would go home and cry. And I was like the youngest person in all my classes at the BA campus, because it's in a extended learning. So it's actually for junior, senior, and master's level courses. But I had enough hours from all my shifting that I did that I was able to attend the junior college. But I did my first semester all online, which was really lonely and hard. It was the most challenging thing, because I'd never done this major before, and I was already taking classes like for it. And I was like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. Lesson plans, what in the world? I'm working with group projects with people.
Yeah.
It was wild. And then I started going there. I prayed to God for a friend, met my one of my best friends, Kaysel. She was my exact same age. We had 1 or 2 classes together, but we didn't really know each other. Then we sat together. She had been praying for a friend, because she was extremely lonely, and we like really grew in God together. And she had a really hard time with, like, I'm single, I've never, dated anybody, blah, blah. We just helped each other grow so much together with that. And she was just so loving, and we had really similar, like, just crazy things that happened in our lives. I jokingly say, like, I'll refer to like certain time periods of my life, like my soap opera summer, or it's like sounds like actual soap operas. Like, you're like, what? Yeah. Why am I normal? But it's because of God. But so that was truly wonderful to have her. And then I ended up, Mackenzie and them were staying at Tahlequah. She ended up moving in with her sister. I started working at Ron's with all of them. Christian, her husband's mom, owns there. So we all started working together. one of my internships popped up and I was like, I'm going to do it in Tahlequah. So I ended up moving in with her sister. Again, just so great. We did quiet times together every morning. This is like when God was just like really, really prominent. And it was really helpful too. There's something different. I was like, it's really easy when you're not like with your family, which it should be all together, but like there's something way easier about keeping consistency and being just with God when you're not around your whole entire family. Because you're just focusing on God and you. And so I was like, oh, this is nice. And so I did that. And then I finished up at Broken Arrow, which I loved it in the end. My Tahlequah internship was scary. It was second graders were so intimidating. New math was so hard. I was like, what am I doing? They pulled out marbles and blocks and I was like, what's happening? They're like, this is a new way to do addition. And I was like, what's wrong with the old way? But I did learn a lot of tense places.
But they have a branch in Broken Arrow.
Sorry, I do. And my aunt lived over there, so I got really close with my cousins again. I stayed there a lot when I was going to school there. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they have a bunch of branches in like Muskogee or something too. But
that's cool, actually.
Yeah, I was doing my internships. Hated my first two were really intimidating. Mr. Harold was fun. Second, I was like, this is scary. And then it was like really on my heart, and I was like, God, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I have this calling of like, maybe I'm supposed to do something else. I don't think it's teaching. And I just prayed. I was like, God, give me like the best person ever for my final internship. Because that's like when you're fully, immersed in the classroom. And I got paired up with Gina Myers at Angus Elementary, fourth grade science and social studies, my two favorite courses. And she was like, I was like, you're me in 20 years. You're so cool. You're so awesome. We looked a lot alike. I got my sweet dog from her dog and puppies. It was amazing. I had 90 kids because we rotated. These kids were absolute angels. And I'm like, this will never happen again. This is amazing. This is a gift from God. Like, this is amazing. And like, remember, I went to school during COVID and everything and all the school stuff. So that was really difficult with these kids in school.
Lord, if you can survive that, I'm telling you.
I made it through though. I never had to do online learning. So I'm like, don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I never had to teach that way through my internships.
I don't recommend it.
And so, but then people were like, oh, that's good. You went to school during that time. And I'm like,
I don't recommend
actually, I don't know how to do any of that.
Well, good. Because I like pointless.
It was hard. We did like one thing, like on Fridays, they would have electronic Fridays and the kids would be like, something's wrong with my computer. I'm like, okay, you're obviously shaking your computer. Second graders are hilarious. They would like show up. One took his camera into the bathroom and we're like, but with all that being said, I finally came to graduate December 2021. But around that time, like in between while I was going to NSU, the Dotsons moved to Foundation and there was some stuff going on at First Baptist that were like, doesn't feel like God's the center anymore, and I think it's time for a change. You could feel it in the worship. You could feel it in a lot of different areas.
Went through a little bit of something.
They did, and it was sad for them. I think they're doing better now, but it was just like, this isn't working. And so Sarah ended up going there to Foundation, and she was like, you should go and check this out. And I was like, I don't know. I'm working a lot, and I'm going to school, and I'm going back and forth.
Yeah.
Because I came home, when I lived in Tahlequah, I came home every single weekend to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Ron's. And I was able to pay for like all my NSU. I don't have any debt from NSU. It was amazing. God really helped me out with that because I was like, I can't take out any more loans.
So smart.
Yeah, it was the best thing.
Dad. That's the dad side.
It was good. I was like, oh man. My parents never had to push us to work though. I was like, I love money. I was like, this is good. I loved being independent, and I loved, really cherished my car because I paid for stuff. So I was like, they really taught me the value of things.
Yeah.
It was interesting. But so I started coming here and there. And the biggest thing that I took away from this church was I walked in and they're like, oh, we've heard about you. You're Sarah's sister. And I was like, yeah, my name's Leah. And it was the greeters. I don't know if you guys know Bo Nelson. I think it was him. He may have left right when you guys were coming around.
You may have, yeah.
But I was like, okay, this is cool. I didn't come back till like 3 weeks later. And then he said, hey, Leah, great to see you. My other church,
like,
I went there from 6th to 12th grade. No one ever remembered my name. They never remembered. McClure would. He would know it, but
it's too big.
Too big. Over 200 kids in your youth ministry.
Yeah,
I was shocked that he could sometimes remember my name. And he was really intentional. So I was like, I know that's hard. He knew stuff about you, but it wasn't the best.
I guess. But, I mean, it's hard for me to remember my students' names from previous years, like especially once they don't come back and visit too often. Because there's so many kids coming through, and I feel awful about that. But
It happens.
That's why they did the small groups, because then you have a small group leader that's intentional about knowing.
Talked a lot about that.
Exactly.
And can step into your life and know your name.
That makes sense.
Mr. Held was such a great advocate because he helped in the youth there too. And he was such a good advocate of like, hey, Sand Springs and Berry Hill, we would have, he just really was a voice for us there. And hey, don't forget them, because we're a smaller school, smaller
That's so
district.
Cool.
He was fantastic. And so we did that and I started going there. They remembered my name. That really stuck out to me. It was like one of the most intimidating but also freeing churches. I was like, all these people are telling me all the weird stuff that's happened in their life. This is not what people are supposed to do at church because I'd never grown up like that.
And,
so
it is.
I grew up non-denominational. Then I went to First Baptist. Baptist culture was so weird to me. I'm like, y'all don't raise your hands when you're praising. You sing hymns.
Yeah, they sing.
What's happening?
At First Baptist, they do the hymnal stuff.
I was like, this is a wild, not in youth, but like main service. I was good night. Everyone's old. Like, it was just an eye opener, and I was like, this is weird.
Yeah,
and it was really shocking to me. But then, as I went there, you kind of get that culture where it's like, even at our church today, like not a lot of people raise their hands a whole lot or move a lot. I still don't from First Baptist, I still don't put my hands up like I used to and like sway, but I was like, we'll swear like our bodies and everything. Anyways, I started going to church there and all this great stuff. And then they just kind of like remembered me. And I had only talked to Rob like once. I was really impressed because the pastors, I never had a pastor come down and talk to me. I don't think my old pastor at First Baptist even knew who I existed or was there, and why should he? Like, he had so many people. But like for them to come down off the stage and be like, "Hey, you looked new. What's your name?" I was like,
"They're very good at. You guys are all so good at shepherding."
It was really cool. It made me feel really seen and special because I was always really nervous. We tried so many churches as kids. It was like I hated trying new churches, especially as a kid. It was so stressful. Everyone already had their friends at church. Yeah. It was really intimidating. And so here, I was like, that was really cool. So I started going there every once in a while. And then a couple of times they would like, let me back up just a little bit. Before this, I, said I'd started kind of feeling like God's presence. During college. I started going to these conventions in Oklahoma City called what was it called? STUMO, Student Mobilization Christian something. Craig Rochelle puts it on with a bunch of different people. We had amazing speakers, amazing lessons, amazing breakouts. It was really cool. So that was all like shaping me throughout that time.
Okay.
And it made big impacts on my life. As well did Falls Creek and all that kind of stuff. Like something was pivotal that happened around that time. And I'm like, okay, I see you. But, I'm in my final internship, everything. I'm starting to kind of help out at the youth with our old youth pastor, CJ and Kira. So
That's the one I showed you. They just had a kid.
Yes.
Shout out. You're going to need to show me them again.
The cutest baby in the world. We just saw him on New Year's.
How fun.
But I started helping with them. And then all of a sudden, Robin, I didn't even really know who they were, but Rob and Hillary started calling me, and I'm like, why do they have my number? This is really weird.
How'd they get my number?
The craziest thing is I had just been walking at Gathering Place with my friend Kaisel, who is also doing education. I was like, Kaisel, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, my internship's coming to an end, and we're graduating in December, and I don't know if this is what I want to do, but I don't know what else I would do. No joke. 20 minutes later, walking at the Gathering Place, Rob calls me, hey, I got your name from, Jennifer Dodson and Becky, the Dodsons. And I was like, okay. And you guys, Rob, Rob, he just shoots off with his conversations and you're like, what's happening? And he's like, well, I just wanted to talk to you. I think you could be really helpful. I guess they had kind of known me from the youth, but I didn't really see that. You're just in your own world when you're at church.
Sure.
And I'd never been crazy involved. I'd done youth and stuff, but I never volunteered intensely like that as an adult. And so I was like, okay. At the time, Miss Jackie's husband, Delbert, had just passed. And they're like, we kind of need some help maybe with Miss Jackie. And I was like, I guess I could. I was still working at Ron's. I was still doing my full, I was full days as a teacher. Yeah. And then I work at Ron's. And then they're like, you should come up. And I was like, I don't really know. And I just left it at that.
So they were wanting you to serve on Wednesdays and Sundays?
They wanted me to, I was serving on Wednesdays. And then they wanted to see if I could help very, very part-time. How I remember it is with Miss Jackie, who was receptionist.
Yeah, so they were offering you a job.
Kind of, but I didn't know that's what it was. And I don't even know if that's what they knew it was going to be. Right. I don't know if it was supposed to be a job or if it was supposed to be volunteering.
They're like,
for some reason, my name got thrown in there. And I was like, God. Yeah. So I was like, why would my name come up? This is so weird. And especially right after I told Kaisel that. And then I was like, I don't really know. Let me just think about it. And he's like, pray on it. And I was like, okay.
Pray on it, yeah.
I was like, yeah.
The answer is yes. You just pray on it. Just go and pray on that.
Whatever. I was like, I don't know. I contacted them back, and then I started doing more and more, and then they called me again. And they're like, hey, Leah, it's going to look a little different. Miss Jackie, really needed the work and didn't want to, she needed to stay busy and everything. Understandably so. And they're like, can you just come in? Like, so I went in. It's like really blurry. It all happened so fast in such a busy time of my life that I'm like, what really did happen? But what I remember is all of a sudden I was there for an interview, and then it ended up being to help with Hannah, who was about to go on maternity leave, and she was the kids minister at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, I thought this was about the receptionist thing. And they're like, it's going to look kind of different. And they painted the picture, and I was like, well, this is a whole other ballgame. We're
going to hire you and just have you do all kinds of stuff. Here's what we're going to have.
I was so confused, and I was like, I don't know. And then it was just like, can you help her and have her kind of like train you for when she's on maternity leave? So then I would come after working at the school, and then after working at Ron's, I would come at 9 p.m. at night and prep the classroom. After Hannah showed me how to do everything, I'd prep the classroom, all this stuff. She would call me and be like, why are you at the church alone? I'm like, it's really scary in here, but I have no other time to do this. So I have to come from 9 to 10. And then I would get up at 6 and go to my internship in the morning, and then I'd go to Ron's.
Wow.
It was wild. I was like, what was I doing?
What am I doing? What am I doing here?
That's how getting my master's felt. That's how getting my bachelor's felt. That's how all of my student teaching sections felt.
It wasn't. And so I was like, I'm not super dedicated to this, but kind of am. And I had to be there Sunday mornings. And I was like, this is weird. Like, mandatorily I have to be here. It was a wake-up call. No one in my family has ever worked in ministry either. So this was all like brand new. And they probably explained things really well, but also I was like 22, 23. So I was like, what am I doing? I think I was 22. I was like, I don't really understand even how to have like a real professional job.
I'm not an adult yet.
Which she was just training me. And so I was like, okay, so I'd be with her on Sundays, and I'd help with youth on Wednesdays, and then I would do random prepping during the week. And I was like, this is weird. It was so weird. So then I was just like, I'm going to prep on Sundays after, because I was like, during the week. That church is so scary at night. If you walk in, there's a ghost in there named Monty, but there's some weird sounds that happen, and it's just because like the roof is super high underneath, and it's like a tin roof. So I'm like, no, thank you. Oh my gosh, whatever their roofs are made of.
I hear something here, and I'm like, did you hear that?
I know. I'd be like, I think someone's coming down the hallway. No, it's just the air conditioner going down. But I did that, and then oh my gosh, it just turned into like another interview. And I was like, okay, I guess this is really happening. Like, I don't want to teach. I'm enjoying my internship right now. I love life. I decided to get a dog. That's hard. It's like having a child, I imagine, but I don't quite know. But it's also like the best thing. And it's so trapping at the same time.
Yeah,
and I'm like, can't go anywhere. Gosh, you're too dependent on me. But he's so sweet. Love Dewey. But it was really hard at that time, too. He's a puppy, and he didn't sleep. I got him during finals week. Don't recommend.
Let's just add some more stuff.
I hated him for the first year of his life. I tried to get rid of him a couple times, but God knew I needed to be with you. Yeah, I was getting kind of lonely because I hadn't been asked out in like 4 years, and I was like, a dog will fix this. It was then I was like, no one's even asked me out. This is so embarrassing. It wasn't.
No, praise God.
It was good, and I was like, well, now I'm kind of wanting one because all my friends were getting engaged and married, and then I was like, I don't want it for the right reasons, I guess. So just prayed. That's a whole other thing too. Just writing down. My mom had made me write down a list of like, what do you want? What are non-negotiables? Yeah, and I was like, that was really helpful. Yeah. Really helpful.
For sure.
And next thing I know, I'm in an interview with Hillary and Scott and Rob, and Scott was at the end of his MS medicine. The mental state was a little goofy. Yeah. And he starts off with like, has anyone told you sound and talk like Shaggy from the live Scooby-Doo? And I was like, what? Shockingly enough, this is not the first time I've actually had someone compare me to this actor. No, it was so random. Rob and Hillary were just like so quiet. It was so like,
oh my god, they're like, she's definitely leaving right now. He's not coming back.
Rob called me to apologize later. I'm like, it's fine. I also cried in my interview. Yes. Scott hits the hard questions, and Tyler was like, oh, I played heads up in my interview. He's our worship pastor. I was like, that's so nice. I cried. I got really deep questions. Scott hit me and was like, how did your divorce affect your relationship with your sister? And I was like, he kept asking me the deepest questions. And he like hyper focuses on things, and so you're like, wow, he's really drilling me over and over and over again with these questions. And I was like, it was hard. And I was already nervous. So it was like a mixture of nervousness and also like, this is sad.
I feel like I'm in therapy right
And
now.
I was like, this is really hard. And it was like in his office on his couches. And I was like, oh my gosh. So the next interview, Scott was MIA.
Was he?
They're like, sorry you cried. But they ended up telling me they hired me because I did cry in my interview. And they really appreciated my vulnerability. And I was like, well, I appreciate you guys not judging me because I was super embarrassing. Also, I'd come from work and I was like wearing the weirdest clothes. I'm like, it was like a weird theme day at school. And I was like,
I'm not changing.
this is not. And I had to go right after. And they're like, can you meet us right after? And I was like, sure.
I'm going to smell like
I love
hamburgers.
it.
but
That's
I'll
what
be
it
there.
felt like. No, not Ron's, but from my internship. It was a theme day at school. So
Yeah, like when I dress up all crazy because of Spirit Week.
I looked wild. I think I had like a Rolling Stones t-shirt on and a checkered skirt. And I was like,
I'm
this was
coming to
kind
work
of
in a
weird.
church.
Yeah, I was like, it was like a skater skirt. And I was like, this isn't the longest thing, but it's not the shortest thing. It's okay. But I had
It'll
like
be
tennis
good.
shoes
Yeah.
on and I was like, this is so weird. I'm sure they were thinking also like, yeah, she's 22.
Yeah.
But no, they weren't
I'm
judgmental
sure.
whatsoever. And then in the end, they were like, hey, why don't you give it a trial? Because I was like, I've never done ministry. I honestly don't really know if kids are my calling.
Yeah.
And I ended up, even to this day, like, you know, you never know where God's going to take you. And I have the biggest open mind about that. I always try to do each year, God, I'm going to be open to whatever, even though I shut the door 1,000 times. I turned Rob down like 3 times when he called me. I was like, no. And I was like, okay. Other doors kept getting shut. So I'm like, oh, he's telling me to walk through this one and I just don't know. But I warned them. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never ran adults. This is going to be really interesting. And they had so much faith in me and they're the best. They're like, this is a no judgment zone, like with no expectations whatsoever. We know you don't know. And I started and they gave me like a 3-month trial. They're like, hey, you don't like it in 3 months. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
There'd be no harm, no foul, even if I didn't like it a year later. But like, they were really awesome.
That's so cool.
I got really close with CJ. We shared an office together. That was really fun. He was like a big brother that I never had. And that was, he is such a good, like spiritual leader in that office. Nate was there here and there, but intern wise, I've known Nate actually for like 19 years. We went to Lake Country together.
Oh, wow.
It was a good time. And so that was funny to see him there. And I was like, what?
What are you doing?
I actually have the weirdest
What am I doing?
story of like one of the first times I went to that church. I was like leaving and this dude kept following me. And then I started walking faster and faster. And they're like, Leah. And I was like, who is this person?
Run.
It was Nate. I literally ran from him. Oh, it's Nate. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in 19 years.
Yeah.
So that was funny. But then he worked there. And then January started 2022. Then they hired Tyler like 2 weeks later.
Wow.
It's just like we're just such a tight knit group, and it was really special because we have such like a age range in our ministry.
That's good though. It keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
It did. It was cool because they hired CJ 6 months before me. I thought CJ had been there for like a really long time, so I was asking him a gazillion questions. And he's like,
oh.
I don't really know. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, what is happening?
Why don't you know your job?
Yeah, and I was like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? And he's like, these are great questions. But he was really like, I mean, he had the best spiritual advice and things. Because I'd say one thing, I was really, really, really tight with God, you know, my relationship in that ministry, spiritual warfare is real. The minute I started, it's been the hardest past 3 years of my entire relationship with God. Like truly. And I think there's been a lot of things like the enemy is bringing back like, you know, those childhood emotions of like, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? Deja vu. It's almost like you're sick and tired of it, but then it's like, I need to change my mindset. And it was really hard. CJ was super helpful going through that of like, it is hard to have a relationship with God and ministry. And then I was like, the more I got to know Hillary, the more I opened up to Hillary. And she was like, oh, Leah, tell me about it. Like, oh my gosh. And so that was something I really struggled with. And after my first year of ministry, I really did almost quit. They would always joke with me and they're like, we didn't think you were going to last. Like, they're like, we loved you and everything. But they're like, my first year of ministry was an absolute train wreck. It was crazy. You had running shoes right by the door every day ready for you to run and leave. And I was like, I couldn't run and leave because I was too scared to go teach because I was like, I don't want to do that. So I was like, no. You know, there's just been so much growth and so much learning. And to this day, like I said, this past year had been hard. I felt like I really hadn't heard from God in a really long time. This past year was kind of the first time in, I guess, the 2 before that I had really heard him. There was lots of ups and downs and ministry is just really hard, and it's mentally exhausting and spiritually and physically. Did I already say physically? I meant mentally. All of the above.
All of them.
It's like really real stuff. I had, my own trauma of like, I don't want to be these people's counselor. I was already like, I don't want to do this.
In charge of people. Feel like you're in charge of
Exactly. Yeah. I've never been like the leader type. I'm not a follower, but I'm definitely like, I like to be in the back of the crowd. So also public speaking, so scary on stage. Every Sunday, guys, I feel like I'm like black out if I go on stage. The big stage is my nightmare. I don't think they make me do it anymore because like literally I would hand the microphone to Hillary and she's like, why is it so sweaty? And I was like I almost puked while just practicing with her one time.
I'm about to throw up right now.
And we've rearranged PCD just because like I feel like an actual freak when I'm on stage and I'm like, what do I do with my hands? But they're like, you look great. And I'm like, I black out. I don't know what happens on stage. I don't know what comes out of my mouth. But we can't practice. I just have to go up there. The more I practice, the worse it gets.
Yeah, I'm going
but like Sunday with the lesson, I definitely practice that just because I'm like, I kind of know what the story is. And those kids ask great questions. But
I do see that you are just so good with the kids. I wonder what he's doing with you.
My kid-like personality.
Just so good with him.
Well, you're also one to give them the right advice. Scriptural, so there's a lot of heaviness to that too.
There is.
Like, because your ministry, people expect you to know, like, what's this scripture? You're like, I don't know either, man. Let's look it up, though. So people always try to do, always elevate them to a different level. And it's like, no, they're just people like the rest of us.
They are. And that's one thing that was hard is I was like, I'm under a microscope. I've had some like weird things happen where it was like, oh my gosh, like I was at like a baseball game and someone saw me standing in a line. I was getting water, but it had signs of other things all over it. And they approached me about it and I was like, I didn't even know you were there. This is so strange. This is so scary that like I had a really bad thing. Like I still get panicked. I hate being watched and I already felt like pressure of like, gosh, I don't ever want to be fake. I try to be truly myself always. But sometimes I was like, I know I work in ministry. So there's some things that kind of, present myself a little bit, but I just started getting nervous about like people seeing me and like judging and but like I said, there was more in my head than anything. Even though those people approached me, mainly they're probably joking with me, but I was so scared and I hated like if someone tells me I have to do something or I can't do something, my brain is like, watch me. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. Or no, I won't. It's a blessing and a curse. So there's just a lot with ministry of learning about it. A lot of my parents didn't understand a lot of things. People try to teach you and help you and you're just like, what in the world? Like, it's just different. But like I said, it's the best church I could ever begin ministry in. And
that's true.
They're so loving and so kind and the forgiveness is unbelievable. And I feel like I can honestly go up to Rob, Scott, Hillary, any of my coworkers and tell them, even if it was like the worst thing I feel like I could tell them that I murdered someone and they would like love me and help me and lead me in the right direction.
Yeah, we feel the exact same way.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And I've just gotten so close with her and because we're the two youngest girls on the team. And so we've gotten so stinking close. She's helped me through so much. She's been not only like a spiritual leader, but she's really helped me like mentally and everything. They're my biggest one advocates. They helped me get into therapy again. And they probably wanted me to tell you guys this, but they even paid for like my first couple sessions, which was really sweet.
That's cool.
So
and it was really cool.
amazing.
Like they had me call and cause I was having too many breakdowns at work. I was like, I gotta figure this out.
Well, that's the love of Jesus.
It is
what that is.
Cause I was like, I probably am crazy to them. Like, and Hillary's like, crazy people don't know that they're crazy.
I have felt that way for most of this school year, and it blew my mind because I'm like, it's my second year, but it was a brand new team again. I'm the team leader, and all the different pressure of that, and just wanting to do it well, and wanting to still be so tender and caring with everybody. I got lost for a little bit.
Yeah, it happens, and you get in the mix, and there's even times when I get lost in ministry where it's like I just go on autopilot, and I'm like, you're not putting your heart in it. But especially when I haven't done my quiet time for a while. But like I said, this past couple years, I haven't really heard God. I haven't really felt him. I've been spiritually really dry. And so I would just say, like, in those moments when I'm doing that, Mike David actually gave me really great advice. taught our life group, our 20s life group at one point, and he was like,
oh, wow.
When you're having those moments, just try to start with like a minute with God. Start with, if you can't read, listen, like do worship music. He just slowly was like, add things in, goes from 1 minute to 3 to 5. Then all of a sudden you're doing 7 minutes. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's going into this and this. And I was so thankful for that, because I tried to do all the things that made me really close to God beginning. And I was like, it's not working. And I'm still trying to figure out what it is truly of like, what am I supposed to do? Like to get back to that point. I'm like, maybe God doesn't want me to get right back to that point yet. There's a reason. We've gone to a lot of different conferences, and there was like a good thing where it's like, through the difficult times, it's like, why does this keep happening to me? Which I'm sure every human being asks this question of like certain hard things. And it's like, but since I was 8, what in the world? The lady talked is Christine Kane, and she was like, you're like clay, and God's molding you. And when you're going through that, like, think about that. It was probably like really hurts if you were like actually a molded putty person. Like that would hurt while you're being created. And you're going to come out stronger and better and fully formed. And I was like, that's really cool. So for those moments when like I said, I'm still doing it right now. When you don't feel connected with God, when you're not hearing him, when you're dry, even if you're like, I'm reading this, I'm getting nothing, just continue doing it. Try anything, try everything. Talk to people, tell people what you're going through. Hillary's going through the same thing. And so that was really helpful. She's probably going through it more intense than I am. And it really helps, because sometimes what you need to hear is like, you're so in your mind and so thinking about yourself that you're not actually seeing like how God's working through you. And me and Hillary have been able to kind of, I think, help each other with that. And say like, oh my gosh, you feel dry, but I just listened to you at the table conference. She said her heart was not in that. And I said, that like that was so, you were so on fire. Like God was working in you. This was crazy. And so I just say, continue trying, have grace with yourself. Don't beat yourself up, because it's not a checklist. That's been the hardest thing. It's not a checklist. If you have like a schedule where you're like, I'm going to wake up and do this, that's not bad. But like, make sure you're doing it because God's called you to do it. It is a marathon.
It's going to be your whole life. And what we say, it's preparation.
It is.
It really is.
You're trying to be prepared for your eternal home.
And remember also that's been pivotal for me to remember. David calls it a meat vehicle. Like, just sometimes I'll pinch myself.
A meat vehicle?
The meat vehicle.
That's so funny.
Isn't it funny? The flesh, like we are of flesh. We are bent toward sin. We thankfully know the one who never sinned and can lay it at his feet, but we're still flesh. And so that's been really big for me, is because you had said it, give yourself grace. That's been so important to go, like, my whole life has changed. My whole life has changed in 18 months. 2 years. And I've been living here for 18 months, and I'll get real frustrated sometimes if I'm like, was I supposed to go 75 or 44? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I'm at. But I feel like I'm home. You know?
It is. And I think there's so much within that itself, but you just, geez, I don't even know how to like start what I'm trying to say, but just having him and being with him and remembering, I don't even know. I can't put it into words. It's just one of those things, when you have that relationship with him. I think also thinking back, like not being too hard on yourself. Like if God can forgive you for every like seriously terrible thing you've done, why can't you forgive yourself? Like you're not special. Like you're not like if he can, and he's like the best thing ever, you should be able to. So I always think about that when you're having those rough days and it's just like it's built and you're like, oh, I always do this or this is happening. But it's like, hey, God forgives me for this and he knows like if he can forgive me, I can forgive myself, which is something constantly I'm learning. And I'll have to remind myself my entire life.
Oh, gosh.
To keep doing that. Yeah.
It's always such a process, and remembering that it's every morning when we pray, we say, thank you for waking us together today. Tomorrow, maybe he won't wake us together.
That's awesome.
I don't know, I don't know.
Well, that's the lens I look at the world because of what I went through.
You don't know ever what will happen.
No, and we often say that, and I often say that, but you can very easily get tripped up in the temptations of this world. And I mean, just as simple as I'm going to stay a couple hours later for work tonight because I just want to get ahead a little bit. That is not a bad thing. But if that is the way I'm living, that was the way I lived my life in Ohio as a teacher. And he's brought me here to see that, no, there are far more important things that I'm calling you to do.
Yes.
And ministering to your family, you know, being with your family, and then also coming and being with these students and loving on them is the calling that I brought you to.
It's true. And I think that's really important. Like, a lot of people always think like work is life.
Yeah.
We're like God's life and everything else comes second. And that's been something I'm really glad I learned that younger. Because, you know, when you're going through college, you're like, oh, this is me. This is going to be me. But it's like, it's not really you. Your job is not you.
Nope.
You can't find your identity.
So you can eat. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and I always am a big advocate of like, you can do ministry anywhere in your life, but like, you can't let your job run your life. And so,
and that's
America
hard.
may disagree, but
right. Well, surely America may disagree.
Just that, you know, not everybody. And I love America. I'm not trashing that. I just meant that America mindset of like work.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's
it's
what
a
the
real
enemy.
thing.
Again, we go back. That's what the enemy wants.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a culture that is buying. You know, we're buying into that lie from the enemy that if my works, if I'm a good enough person, or if I do enough work, so that
you make enough money.
If I make enough money, if I it just all the things that aren't going with us, they are not permanent. They're temporary. They're not going with us.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's if you're a believer, your spirit is what goes to heaven. So yes, have the nice things, do the things you want to do, but is it all in right order with the Lord? That's something we ask for every day. Like, put us in right order with you. We just talked about our financial situation because we had to pay $1,000 more for these teeth, and surprise, just another, you know, that's only.
Well, I joke when Sue's passed away, it's like, what do you do now? I was to the point where I was like, I'm just going to sell the house and everything in it, because Emily had already moved out. It was, talking about moving out. And I was like, why don't I need to stay in here? I'm just going to move out and get some acreage somewhere and live in a log cabin.
John the Baptist, locusts, and wild honey.
But to me, that's a way I can disconnect from everything, because it just seems like the more you get in the world, the more it pulls on you for your time.
Oh, yeah. And it gets you
Everything.
in the silliest ways. TikTok. I just was like, we're going to delete that. Today it hit me and I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to take this into 2025 for a while. Like, because I started getting, it's small things, but it's like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do not like, I'm not even a jealous person, but there are things where it's like the avoidance of like, if I could just do this, if I could just get away.
I just wrote about that.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I
don't even get on there with the intention of feeling jealous about something or feeling envious about something, or well, I wish my skin looked like, dumb in my mind, but it's like, it's happening as I'm scrolling and I'm like, gosh, I came on here to like, whatever. Like, I did not come in there to get into that.
Almost it's like coded as like, hey, that's cool. It always for me starts off with, that's so cool. And then I start following that person. I'm like, their life is so cool. And then it's like, then I'm on a bad day and it's so dumb. And I'm like, oh, I should just, they made it big because they moved to Hawaii from a weird Midwestern state. Like, I should do the same thing. I'm like, what am I doing here? But I do think about that. Like, I'm just going to leave and I'm going to leave my job and everything. And I'm going to just like live in a weird
you like going
cabin in the woods. Because I love the outdoors.
Out. You love the outdoors.
I do.
Don't you feel like a disconnect when you go out hiking or whatever? Like it's easy where you can just like you feel like you can decompress.
I can take a deep breath. It's fresh. And it's like it sounds peaceful. So cliche, but it's like, wow, God made that. Wow. Wow. And like when you travel more and you see all these different wildernesses, it's like, how does this even look so like what? Like it's just so crazy.
And on top
to
of
me.
that, to think this isn't even the original design. This is the corrupted design.
Literally. And it's beautiful.
I never thought about that.
As beautiful as it is, this is corrupted. Just imagine how more beautiful it would have been sin
it's
not
going
entered
to
the
be
world.
in
I
heaven.
constantly think about that stuff when I'm in
To me,
nature.
it's therapy for me.
It
So
is.
I can get out and just hike. I mean, I would hike until you told me to stop. I mean, I could just keep going and going and
Lord,
going.
yes, he could. I mean, I am a hiker too, but good Lord Almighty.
We're actually planning, me and my mom are going to try to do a 14-mile hike in Colorado this summer. And I was like,
nice.
I'm so excited. I've like walked 14 miles. I've done other things.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever, that's a lie. I have done a hike that much, but it's because we got lost in Colorado in the snow. It was wild.
Yeah, but that's
I
when you have the
wasn't
adventures.
scared.
Yeah.
Like, it was an adventure and I knew God got me, and
you
I
just
feel so
prepare for
close
that.
to
You
him.
just know you're going to be hiking for a day, a work day.
Mhm.
And you're good. And you prepare for it.
It'd be my dream job if I could just, hike around and talk about Jesus to people. And
Like park ranger,
everything.
green park ranger.
I actually did almost become a park ranger, and then I looked it up how to become one.
Sorry.
And then I was like, you only make $20,000 even a year.
Yeah, they don't make very much.
Hey, they pay for all your living and everything, but you have to live and you don't get to pick what park you go to. They
All right, it's becoming less appealing.
Not killing anybody's dream. If that's
sorry, I'm just
That's
a
what
realist.
Ethan's doing.
To go back, I would.
Sorry,
That's what Ethan's doing.
If I was to go back before college, which, hey, I don't ever regret any decision I made. I don't regret going, right where you're at. I made that path, everyone has student loan. Everyone has something that they're doing. Everyone has, but it was like, if I ever went back to like my senior year, I would take a gap year and I would definitely do park ranger for 1 year. But I'm also such a people person that I would be like, I think I'd get too lonely.
Yeah.
Unless you got to live with like a bunch of girls, then I'd be like, let's go. But I did.
So you like the solitude plus?
I do.
But you're an extrovert. You're an extrovert. So you refuel off of. Did I say extrovert?
Yeah.
I'm an extrovert?
Well,
or
yeah,
you're kind of in between?
I call myself an introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
I'm right in between because like sometimes
That's about
I
what I would be.
Yes.
Yeah, because you two get fed off of being around a lot of people. I get depleted. I love people.
I used to not, but I also get refueled just going out and being out in nature.
That's exactly how I am.
He would be everybody would get an A, and he would open the door for everybody, and we would be talking for 400 years. This man, you are the most kind-hearted, social person, and you don't think that you are.
Here's the thing. When you walk up on other hikers, do you start the conversation with them? Hey. I always do a hi.
I would do, hey, how's it going?
Having a good day. And it usually ends into a conversation. Now, there's times where I'm like, don't talk. Just keep going. Like, I'm on a mission.
They're like,
that 14-miler, you're not going to be talking to too many.
Yeah, well, Kenny, my over, he can talk a lot. And I'm like, we're going to be sitting here for like an hour.
For me, it's not so much, I enjoy the outdoors.
Yes.
But it's just and I did this when I was playing tennis as well.
Me too. I played tennis.
And pickleball, we're all supposed to play pickleball.
Yeah, we are.
Well, I played competitive tennis. I played all through high school. I actually coached for a while. But my hitting partner, we would actually play it by Hillcrest, the heart hospital right there at 13th and right next to the church right there.
Yes.
It's so funny, well, not funny, but it's a juxtaposition because you're able to run around and play at the level we are playing at. Right across iShot is the hospital.
Yeah.
And there's somebody in a hospital bed that cannot get out.
Many bodies.
Literally.
Cannot get out. Maybe some people are having trouble breathing. They're having heart troubles. Legs aren't working. And I'm out there able to do that. So for me, hiking is just like, man, I'm able to utilize and appreciate my lungs, my heart working, everything working.
That's what I constantly think about that stuff too. And it really helped me. I never actually struggled with like body image or anything because I was like, I'm so thankful for the legs you gave me, God. It was just a good reminder of all the things I could do. Like, not every kid can play sports like that. Not everybody. I knew it was like a gift of something. No, I was not like a fantastic athlete, but I just meant that ability to play tennis, do rowing, to like do those things and move that way.
Gratitude that the Lord allowed you
to be able to staying in a state of gratitude.
Yes. And so that's something that helps me a lot too, is like not only going outside and doing that, like I take like 2 walks a day, just like mentally, physically, it's helpful. But like when I'm working out, also, it sounds silly, but I feel really close to God because it's like I'm building up our body is the temple, and I'm like, I'm building it up, and I want to be able to, my goal is to be able to live a super like long time. I want to make it to my hundreds, but just so I can be around and share stuff more. And I want to honor, he created me, so I want to honor. And I think that's hard for some people to understand, but like,
well, and something you can even add to that we heard the other night, I think in a sermon, or maybe I was listening to something at work, but if this is the vehicle with which the Holy Spirit lives in, and they're a guest in your temple, don't you think you want to keep clean?
Yes.
Or clean it up for your house guest and keep it nice? So it's like, oh man, I didn't think of it.
Yes.
In that way.
I do think of that a lot, and it helped also with my mom being in healthcare, just seeing what people go through when they're older. And she worked at CTCA for a while, and I was just like, wow, like she had a different outlook on like, I'm very thankful, for things. I'm very thankful for just being able to see, a lot of things there, a lot of people grow, what's it called, beating it, and then people going back in remission, like to see their hearts for it and everything. She was like, man, it just, with all of that being said, like it is true. It's like you just want to make your temple better and you want to keep it nice, but it does remind me in the long run too. It's like I want to be able to be active, and I want my life to be like, I don't want to be famous by any means, but like a testimony to people.
Yes, an altar for him.
Yeah, and so
what's going to fail us at some point? It's inevitable.
I'm ready.
No matter what you do to keep it going,
but
it's going
to be
fall apart.
as clear as you can be while you're here, I feel like I'm going through this now where it's like I cannot put sugar in my body, white starchy sugar of any sort.
Christmas wrecked me.
Oh my Lord, going back to school wrecked me, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get, like, it's January, you're not back to school anymore.
Yes,
stop eating the sugar, Amy. So walking through that and just kind of seeing how it alters me, whole other podcast, but it's like, okay, so then what are you willing to sacrifice? Like you talked about that earlier. And so I started back at the gym on Monday, like it's all good. And now we're going to reset for this coming Monday, but just getting that sugar out of my body and caring for my temple more. I've had more energy because I was getting tired again by 7:30 at night. It's like, this is dumb. Oh, getting agitated. This is dumb.
It's that seasonal time too, when it's dark at 4 and you're like, what's happening?
Just want to sleep. Yeah.
So I get that, and that's so cool that you have that at your age. Versus, and I think I've had it now for a little while, but I've been on the struggle bus with going back to using food to comfort me through processing things.
That's real though. I sometimes would do that too with like when I get anxious, I would eat a whole lot.
Yeah.
But
like tubs of ice cream are very good under those conditions.
Mine wasn't so much the ice cream, it would be like random like goldfish or like chips.
Yeah.
Popcorn. Whoa, popcorn was intense. Or grapes. Whoa. Fruit and me. I love fruit, but it was like my go-to, like I'm anxious, I'll eat like 15 cuties.
It's still a lot of sugar, but God, at least it's natural sugar.
At least it's that.
That's oranges.
Everything you eat, your body turns to sugar. That's what I always tell myself to make myself feel better. I'm like, it's healthy sugar. It's God's sugar. It's nature's sugar, the raisin. And no, that's good.
So what else did we miss? We got to the point we are currently working. You are now in year 4 or 5 of...
I'm in my 4th year. I just celebrated 3 years there. Yeah. Actually, it would be like January 10th, I think I'll have 3 years here. That's 2022 I started. So now I'll be starting on my 4th year, which is wild.
That is awesome.
It is. It's wild though. I'm like, whoa, I feel old. Not really, but G came in and he's like, I was born in 2002. And I was like, oh, 2002. And I was like, did I just age like significantly?
How old is G?
Me?
That's our only
24.
3 years apart. 2 years apart.
It just feels different. Him and Kenyon, my boyfriend, is younger than me. He's 4 years younger than me.
How do you spell his name? I know I've asked you this 700 times.
I'm telling you, it took me forever. Kenyon. Kenyon. His mom, what I heard is his mom was watching a basketball game whenever he was born, and there was a player in there, for those of you who know basketball players, his name was Kenyon something.
Oh,
and she really liked it.
It is a very cool name.
It is really cool. A lot of people call him Kenya on accident, and they always think he's from Africa. He's a quarter Nigerian, but they always think, they're like, are you from Africa? And I'm like, South Africa? He's so
African white.
But it's really funny. Him and G, there's just that difference where it's like, y'all are YouTube kids. We watch different shows. There's a significant amount of time difference where it's like, whoa. Yeah. Like, he really humbled me, and he's like, did you even have Snapchat? I was like, yeah, I got it in 6th grade. Thank you very much. That's when it was created. And he was like, whoa. I was in 3rd grade. And I was like, sick. Don't say that stuff to me. It was disturbing. It was so when we were driving, I was just going into middle school, and I was like, ick.
That is so funny.
Him and G
is just a little
bit different.
Yeah, but it's really fun. We joke, we laugh. It's not that big of a age difference, but when you hear someone, I was born in 98, so anything past 2000, I'm like, you're like a child.
Well, then
You're not supposed to be a grown
We're
up.
75, but at least it's
75.
19, right? 1990, 1975.
Yeah.
It's the 2000s that's gross. I'm like, what's happening? You're not supposed to be an adult. You're not even supposed to be in my class or near me. This is so weird.
What are we going to say when it's 2100?
We're not even going to make it to that.
200?
I don't think we're going to be
Like,
alive then.
200? I don't even know what I would say. That sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
24.
25.
Yeah, there's no way we're making it to that. We're going to be
I'd love to see
100.
that.
29.
You could.
200. I guess that's
you
what we're going to
could.
say. Are we going to, how old are we going to be? Now, how old are we going to
We're
be?
already 50 right now. It's
We're
2024.
49, you.
We're pretty close. We'll be 50 this year.
Well, you're the mathematician. You people are the math people. So
We're not making it. We're not, making it.
I just trust
We're
whatever
not
he
making
says
it.
about
This
that.
is not a math brain whatsoever.
Not at all. I mean, no,
No.
not happening.
It wasn't my gift.
50, maybe.
You
That'll
guys
put
could
us in
make
the
it to
70s.
2050. Oh, for
That's
sure.
24 years. We would
We'll be in
be.
the 70s.
You
Yeah.
could do
We'll
that.
be 69 at that time.
Yeah.
No, wait. I don't
We're
know.
not
See,
making
this
it.
is why you don't trust me.
We're not making it 21.
How old did your parents live to? Are they still?
My mom passed away young. She was 47.
Okay.
And then my dad is still alive. He's 82.
82?
If I have that Hungarian side of me, you're stuck with me for a while, man.
Europeans live forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. And I'm trying to
That's-
think, I'm like, all my grandparents except one is still alive, and my great grandpa lived for a while.
Oh, wow.
But my parents have my grandparents have a big age gap from each other's sets of parents. It's because my nana had my dad so young, but like one's like in their 80s now, and the other just hit their 70s.
Whoa.
I'm like, that's weird. So like my
Yeah.
nana was like in her 40s when I was born. I was like, that's weird and trippy. And then they were already in their like 60s. I was like, well, weird. The other set of grandparents.
I love it.
It's whatever.
Oh my God.
That's funny. You
Well,
guys could
so-
still be alive.
So are the running shoes not there at church now?
I mean, I think I'll never say they're not. Everyone has those moments. I'm always ready for God to call me to something else or do
Yeah.
something. It's
Mhm.
scary, but also I never want to stay just comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the moments I realize it's time is when I feel the most uncomfortable. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, God's telling me something. Like, not
Mm.
uncomfortable at like work, but uncomfortable with like this new thought that's in my
Yeah.
brain or something.
Mhm.
But truly, the only way I know how to answer that, I'm not like the best planner in the world. And so I'm really just living.
You're just in the season.
I'm literally just living
That's
in a
awesome.
season where it's like, God, what are you
Okay.
going to call me to do?
What's
And
next?
yeah, what is it?
Whatever
And I
you
have
call
no
me
idea
to.
what it's going to look like or where it's
Yeah.
going to lead me. But
Well, even simpler than that, we have learned, especially with how we were introduced by the Holy Spirit and how we had to date from the state of Ohio to the state of Oklahoma
Mhm.
is, what was I going to tell her? There it goes. Twice.
read her mind. Dave. What was you gonna tell me?
That's bad. Twice. I'm showing my age.
No.
It's really
You
bad.
had work today, probably.
This whole thing with all right, guys, I had more work done on my mouth. It's possible that Advil and
That's
Tyler are wearing
word
off. I
off.
don't know. Oh gosh, I don't know.
No, you're fine. I lost my brain. I just
We'll
kind of
listen
made
to this
some
back
stuff.
and maybe I'll just sneak it in. I don't know. What
You
to
could.
say. Or we're just gonna cut
We'll
that
just
whole
like
part out.
move your mouth a little bit.
Figure it
We'll
out.
Photoshop it. And be like,
It was one of those ones where it was going great, and then you're like, squirrel.
It happens to me all the time. It
Yeah.
happens to me on stage a lot, and I'm like telling the story, and I'm like, "Wait, where was I? What did I say?" I'm like, "That's so embarrassing."
In the
Kids don't
classroom
know.
all the time. Thank goodness my students are just like, "Yeah, this is what you just said." I'm like, okay, good.
Oh,
thank you.
thank
Mm.
you.
They're so good to me.
It's just because you see some kid doing something weird, and then you're like, "What?"
A
And then
whole
you
row of
forget.
windows that go, the bridge going over from my elementary to the middle school is there.
Yes.
And then the whole walkway to the high school stadium is there. So we've action all the time. And I have chosen to let that action just be a part of our classroom. And sometimes I regret that decision because the teacher with ADD is like, "What? That's a really cool sweater.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the
Like,
random
where
stuff.
are we at?
They must be playing football tonight." I mean, like, yeah, nonstop.
That's how my brain works. It's so random.
Mhm.
I go through like 20 thoughts, and then I'm like thinking while someone's talking to me, and then I just like say it.
Yeah.
My mom really understands that. My family's used to it, but some people are like,
I gotta
"How
get
did
it.
you even?"
You got to get it
Yeah.
out of your brain. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Or I'll forget it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what he says to me.
It
He's
comes
like,
off
you just
so
had
rude,
to
but
get it.
it's not.
He's like, you just had to get it out of your brain. I'm like, I know.
You just
It'd be nice
blurred
to
it.
finish all of the thoughts, though.
Oh yeah.
It's good. So you and Kenyon have been dating
Yeah, I was
for.
going to say, you need to
Yeah.
talk because you told us a little bit about that
Yeah.
at lunch. I think
Yes.
that's important.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back to
It's
kind of where you started.
cool story. Yeah. I had started praying to God. I was like, okay, God, I'm ready to date. Like, I'm content still being single, but I'm ready. And I had made that list. And all of a sudden, Alexander brings Kenyon to our life group. And right off the back, I was like, he's super cute. Oh my gosh. But I was like, nah, nothing would ever happen. He is so sweet. But it was really cool because I actually got to see him become a Christian and see what those steps are becoming. I never really seen like the follow up, you know, with people when they accept God and what their life looks like and how hard it is. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're in your 20s and you're accepting God and you've lived like a way different life and you don't even truly understand fully, it's really awesome to see just how far he's grown. He's been a Christian, I think, for 3 years now. So I got to see him become a Christian. I got to have our whole group prayed over him before we even started seeing each other and everything.
Wow.
And the more I got to know him, we started, you know, we would have hangouts with our life group, and that was really fun. All that kind of stuff. Well, he found out that me and Mackenzie, Christian, all of us, like, we're starting to run and do a 10K with my friend Megan, and we played volleyball together. We had a very active life group at the time. It was fun.
So cool.
It was pre-children.
Pre-marriage, pre-children. Yeah.
Pre-marriage, pre-children for a lot of people. I say that, but actually everyone was married except for me, Nate. And Nate wasn't even in the life group at the time, but me, Kenyon, Alexander. I don't even know if there was anybody else. Every single other person. And I was like, interesting. But we met, and then we just started hanging out more. He found out we were running, and so he was like, hey, he would send me, he's like, you got me out here running. He would send me like texts at like 5 a.m. of him running. And I was like,
what?
That's kind of, he sent me like a video. That's kind of interesting and weird, but kind of cool. And we just honestly started off being really good friends. And it started with us just sharing music with each other. Like, hey, check out this, check out this. Like, it was just really fun and innocent. And we had really good talks on, like, we'd go hiking together all the time. And my dog was an absolute menace at the time. And Kenyon was such a trooper for taking care of him and holding him on those walks. Jeez, it was a wild time. He's still wild, but I love him. He's 3 now. Anyways,
Coolest name ever.
Thank you. But so that kind of happened, and then it was like forever. I'd call Mackenzie. I was like, okay, I kind of like him, but you know, he's not giving me the vibes. He keeps saying like one thing, but then he's really nice to me and we hang out all the time. But then he's like, I don't want to date. I'm blah, 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 all this stuff. She's like, Leah, you just got to talk to him. So it's so lame. And here's the thing. I looked back at that list and he checked off everything on the list, even to like the silliest things of
but did you know the age gap at that point?
Okay, listen up. I did not understand the age gap.
Okay.
I'm so embarrassed to admit this. I was 23 and he was 19 when I first met him.
Did
and it was really embarrassing, and it did give me the ick really bad for a little bit, because I was like, ew, he just graduated high school last year. This is really weird. Kind of like a creeper. And I was like, oh, this is so weird. And, I hated it.
Yeah.
Just for that. I was like moving past it. No one knows now that we dated it when he was 19 and I was 23. Yeah. The worst part was I turned 24 before he turned 20, so it sounded even weirder.
Yeah,
I was like, gross.
Oh,
it was like a couple months. I was like, he loves it. He loves it. Yeah. He's like, we're technically 5. I'm like, we're technically not, but okay.
I'm sticking with 4.
So scary. It is 4. 1998, 2002. My family was like, wow. But my dad is 2 years younger than my mom. So I'm like, y'all can't talk.
You can't talk.
And Nate's mom, Beth, is 4 years older than Jim. So I was like, it's cool.
Yeah.
You can't,
cool.
You can't say anything.
But I will say it was hard because all the stuff he was going through, and I'm like, very much. Like, I was like, what's happening? So I was
even the 4, the 23 is like, those are 2 different lives almost.
19, all his friends were getting married and everything. It was wild. But 19, I'm 23. He's new. Wonderful guy. And there's been so much growth in between there. And I wasn't perfect. I hadn't dated in like 4 years. So I was like,
and all of us, we're all growing.
But honestly, I think it was really helpful. And this is going to sound super weird, but because I really felt like I had no say in like the first relationship I was in, I was like, it's kind of nice being the older one and feeling like a little more like
in charge, kind of.
Almost like he's kind of following my lead of something, and that was really nice. Of like, he's not going to push any boundaries. Yeah. Of like, he was really thoughtful of like, is it okay if I put my arm around you? You know, all that kind of stuff. Like, really nice, because I just had some issues with the past one that I had a little PTSD from some things, and he was always so intentional. So I'll say this, very mature for 19, also, 19-year-old boy. So here we go. But with the friends and the silly things, but emotionally really mature. He's had such an interesting life. I won't share anything. He's pretty private. And if he wants to share it, he'll come on and share it. He's had an extraordinary, he's so unbelievably loving and kind for everything that he's kind of witnessed and gone through. So it's really cool. And it's been cool just to see how his mind thinks. He actually got mentored by Nick Klinovich for a while, which really helped him. And you know, he was really close with like CJ, and now he's super close with G and all the guys. And it's just every single year he's just getting closer and closer, and we're growing together. And it was like eye-opening. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. He was like, okay, let's pray. And like out loud, that's like something I don't usually do, is pray out loud in front of people. And he also like wanted to hold my hands when we were praying. And I was like, I've never had somebody do that before. This is really sweet and intentional. And I never said like, I want to hold your hand when we pray or anything. He was just like, okay. And so it's cool just to see like how his relationship with God is, I mean, ebbs and flows, and you know, we're all in the hills and valleys. There's always highs and lows, but it's been really cool. And the coolest thing is, I think we like really equal each other out with the weaknesses and strengths of so many things, because you know, he may not be the most consistent coming to church or consistent of some things, but the way he just like unapologetically talks about God and like openly, and he has friends who are atheists or like just, you know, not wanting to live that life right now. He is so open about talking. He's never embarrassed. He'll never just like give in. Like he doesn't argue with them, but he's just excited to share it, and he'll invite everybody to the life group. Even some people where I'm like, where did you find this? But in the end, you're so nice and loving and kind. Whereas I'm almost too nervous sometimes to approach people just from past experiences. I'm like, I don't want to get yelled at, or they don't look like they'd want to know about God. And I'm judging, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but he does not. He really leads in that kind of way, which I think is cool. That's awesome. Very loving, very unjudgmental.
So he's 19 in age, but he's not 19 in
he wasn't like, at the time. And then now he's 22 and I'm 26, and just mentally he was not, because we all thought he was older when he joined our life group. And then one day we were all playing volleyball, and we had kind of started talking to each other by then, and he was like, yeah, I'm 19, and I was like, huh? And everyone just stopped and looked at me, and I was like,
oh God, what's happening right now?
I got lots of teasing for that one. And CJ's like, I don't know if you should be helping out in youth. And I'm like, don't say that stuff like that. That's so cute. Pull that out. But it was so embarrassing. I was like, don't say stuff like that.
Just razzing you. That's awesome.
They would. And Tyler loved, he would tell everybody, he's like, he was 19 and she was 23. I'm like, stop doing that. He loved the shock value.
But look at what God has done. If we take the age out of it and the whole judgment of the age out of it, you know what I mean? The challenges that you guys have gone through are preparing you for whatever he's doing. In you individually and in you as a budding couple.
It's so true. And I mean, we plan hopefully to get married and everything, but like, we're playing, it's God's will. But I think whatever happens, I could never see this relationship ending for a really terrible reason. I could see it for meeting more growth and different, you know what I mean? Like, I just think we have so much mutual respect for each other, and we're both really trying to keep God at the center. We're not perfect, but we're really trying to keep God at the center. Nobody is.
Perfect.
And it's harder. Like,
nobody's perfect.
They don't really teach you how to, like, it's so easy to have a relationship by yourself with God, but no one really tells you, like, now have it with the opposite gender and you're in a relationship with each other. There's not a whole lot of coaching with that. And so that was something like we're figuring out together, which I think, God intends it. You got to figure it out together.
We still are, we're only in a year and 2 years into even knowing each other, and a year and a half into being married. And it's, we were just talking about that, how just the circumstances that you bring to to the relationship, to the table, have to be mitigated. I mean, they have to be like intertwined, and what he struggles with is not what I struggle with, and what I struggle with is not what he does, but it is so well matched on the tenderness and love and consideration part on the other person's end. Puzzle piece.
Yes. And there's so much stuff that's also happened like in his life that I experienced in my early 20s that now, whether he enjoys it or not, or takes it or not, I can really share that, because it's like, hey, I know exactly, like, I've literally been where you've been, and I know.
So he does that for me.
It also helps me be really gracious to him of just like, on the hard moments and hard days, I have a lot of grace, where I think a lot of people sometimes don't always see that for him or have it, but I'm like, dude, I've been there.
Yeah.
And here's what I did to help. But that's, it's on you to share the rest. But yeah, it's only my second relationship, but it's so healthy and it's so loving and kind. And I was like,
awesome.
Jesus really sent me with this one. He's not perfect, but he did definitely check off every single thing of like my non-negotiables down to like, it's silly, but I was like, what color eyes and hair do I want them to have? And everything. It was silly stuff, but and I was like, wow, this is great. He's so funny, so kind. He loves the outdoors like I do. He had never been hiking before, so that's been something really fun that we get to do together.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
It seems like you guys so love that.
We do. We play a lot of pickleball. We haven't in a while, but
yeah, we haven't either.
We do a lot of things, and the biggest thing I appreciate about him is he never. And how do I put it? Like, he's always excited to be in a group with people, and he loves being with other couples. And I really like that because my other one didn't. And so, not to like, I don't constantly compare or anything, but that is something that really stuck out to me. He loves being with my family. He wants to spend time with family. He wants to play games with my family, and he loves all my friends and wants to hang out with them. If we're doing like a date, and he's like, "Can be fun. Let's call Mackenzie and Christian." And I'm like, "Really?" And I get excited. And so he's really thoughtful of that. And I love his heart just that he has for people too. And I think it's good. And they all love him, and he's kind.
Those things are so key. I think that especially in our culture, the American culture is, as we were kind of talking about with Instagram and scrolling and things like that, we can be so drawn away from what matters. And it is, this relationship is the first relationship I've had where I felt the love of Jesus, literally. I felt like I was being shown on this side of heaven what it looks like with Jesus in a husband figure, because none of my other marriages had that. And that's so really cool. Wow. You know, you have that, you guys have that. And to continue to nurture that, I cherish every moment with him. And that isn't just lip service. When we sit every morning and do the YouVersion Bible app together, and we pray for people and we pray for each other, and we come home safe to me. I mean, I cannot imagine a day without him.
That's so sweet.
That's a hard thing to even wrap my head around, but trusting God.
Yeah. And even not say it's more for me, but losing late wife and then just kind of accepting that I was going to be single, or that was what he was going to set me up, was to be single.
Yeah. Like where you were like, I'm okay.
Oh yeah. I was like, I'm going to be single my whole life. And I think that's really okay.
Yeah.
Like, I was chill. I was like, I can do whatever I want.
Totally okay with this. Yeah. Totally okay with this.
I'm going to build that log cabin, you know? But he had other plans. And then I'm like, wow. And then he brought somebody that was a perfect match. So it's like, okay.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, like to take the ashes and to turn it into beauty. And like you had said, or it might have been Desiree, who's coming to our church now, who I work with.
Minyet? I know who you're talking about. Yes.
She had said today that the verse that is coming to her is the one, Ephesians, possibly Ecclesiastes, I don't know. That is, you want to give me abundantly more, God.
Yes.
And that he wants to continue to give us more. And it's so refreshing to me to see a 26-year-old and a 22-year-old giving their lives to Christ, living for Christ. You're not perfect. We're not. Nobody is.
Yeah.
You're open about that. The more open we are about that, the more people see that, yes, we are hypocrites. All churches are filled with hypocrites. All churches are filled with sinners. It's to point to the one who didn't and doesn't and never will.
That's why you always have to put him in the center.
And you guys are doing that. That is so refreshing to me.
We really try. And I think one of the biggest things, it's helped me a lot, and I think helping him is, I would recommend to anybody, get an accountability partner. They help you with just so much, whether it's, always go to that person first when you have an argument and everything, but maybe you're like, I've prayed about it, I know, but it's like, is this normal? Like, to have those people to check on those things, like, is this normal? We're not married, but we're in a relationship. You want to honor that person, but you have to find somebody that you can trust that won't, share what you shared with them. So that's something I would recommend. It's just really helpful to have that, and just that mentor that kind of coaches you.
That's so key.
Because there's still things that like we're still learning and working on, and that we're like, I don't know, we really need to see what the Bible says about that. Or like,
What are the boundaries?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's normal in any relationship.
For
Or
sure.
like, what is it? And it's like, I don't know. It doesn't really exactly say.
Mhm.
And so that's been just really helpful to have other people and other people that are married to help us like have this conversation. It's been really nice.
Surely,
That's
because
awesome.
if you both are hopeful that that's going, what's going to happen for you, you
Yeah.
surely want those examples that God would want you to see.
Oh, yeah.
But I never knew what a healthy marriage was.
Kenyon hasn't either. The home situation's a little unique too. So
Mhm.
even more unique. So I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
None of us have really seen. But like me having Mackenzie and her family, he had his
Yeah.
friend Gage and his family who were always together.
Yeah.
He was like, I loved seeing that. There's like, God gave us those people
Yeah.
in there as, helpful. But then also
Mhm.
humbling of like, they're not perfect either, but what it means to like unconditionally love and
What it means to put God in the center, to put Jesus in the center of your relationship,
oh yeah,
knowing you're going to fall on your face but you're lifting each other up.
yeah,
You're
it's
truly and
good.
genuinely walking alongside each other.
It's good. And I would say that's the best thing I'm like most thankful for him is since we're both like putting God at the center.
Mhm.
When we have like arguments or anything, it's almost more like they're discussions of just our feelings. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
because neither one of us like confrontation either, but like we're like, hey, I just have to tell you how I'm feeling.
Mhm.
And it's really helpful because I haven't had one like, I hated arguing, so I just like refused and would shut down.
Yeah.
But with this one, it's like there's no reason to argue. I just have to tell you how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
and we're both really sincere with it, and we're both nice and
tender
understanding,
with each other.
with each
That's
other.
for
And
sure. That's the part.
Huge.
I think it's as we just saw, but like we don't even hold grudges. We don't like after we had the fight, our day will go completely normal after that. And I'm like, this is nice because my family did not do that. So I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
for
it's
sure.
really, truly nice. And I don't feel like I have to like steep in it because he's really gotten me out of that where it's like, you got to tell me what's wrong. Cause like you just saying I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in the car and you're obviously not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But it's just been good and helpful or me saying like, I need you to communicate with me instead of just like, you're just, don't talk to me for a couple days. What's going on,
He's
dude?
beating you up for you not
He's just
telling
loving
him.
you
He's just
through
like,
it
hey,
and
you gotta-
letting you heal.
Yeah. And he lets me cry, which is nice. I don't cry a whole lot, but when I do, he doesn't. What are you doing? Like, there's no reason to be crying. He's always like, hey, are you okay?
tender.
Yeah, it's really nice. He's very emotionally with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good, especially for a
nice.
22-year-old.
Oh, yeah. 22-year-old. Because some of the ones I had met, I was like, no, this is too much. Like, not super in tune with your feelings.
Well, and you are super in tune with yours and with what you want at your age. And it's just refreshing.
Yeah, and
it's hard.
It's also probably harder to find it in
Outside.
a 22-year-old guy.
Yes,
for sure.
Especially
it
at this,
hard.
Especially in this day and age, which I don't.
If they're not in some type
I'm
of a
not
church family,
judging any guy, but I mean, you can scroll a hole on Instagram and TikTok as a young male and have no, especially not having godly background or. And not looking at the women
stuff,
as pieces of meat, and then to meet an actual woman out in real life, and not to treat her like that. It's
amazing, and that's what I prayed for. I was like, God, I don't want to ever go, no hate on the dating apps, but I was just like, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to do it.
I wasn't going to do it.
And
I'm like, no, I'm done.
And then to meet him through a life group, I was like, God bless, thank you so much. Like, I'm so thankful for this. And like I said, no shade whatsoever. Some of my friends have met like the love of their lives through that.
Oh yeah,
but it was they had to go through a lot of toads to find. Guys and girls have had to go through a
whole lot easier
hard people
to let God.
It is
and for me it was just being face down with him and surrendering a lot like the three of us did, where we're like, I'm okay with being single for the rest of my life. I'm so okay. Mine was face down after that third divorce, several months after that divorce. And I realized I was guttural crying out to him, and he said, I'm the only father you've ever needed. There was a surrender in that I didn't sign up for. Yeah. I didn't think so, but I did. When I dunked, it came up new. He said, I told you.
Life gets real after that. You're like,
yeah. And that was the most alone I had ever felt in my whole life. And not even a year prior to that, I was at a beach on the lake in Ohio with a gun to my head.
That's wow.
Because I was so miserable in that last marriage, and I didn't understand how the Lord would ever fix this. And I had to really begin to pray for my unbelief.
That's amazing.
And my relationship. Then he brought me to my knees and said, I told you I was the only father that you ever needed.
That's going to make me cry. Sorry. I was like misting my eyes up there for a second.
But you are exploring those pieces with him now. And I'm just so grateful for that for you.
I'm too. I think blessing and a curse.
Sure.
Being able to have that front row seat of just like, you know, seeing my parents go through all of that over again and other things. I think it really helped me figure out like what I want, what I don't want, and take away the good and the bad of like, okay, it's all a learning thing.
It's also keep in mind what you probably already know, that was your parents' relationship. That's not going to be yours.
Yes. And, you know, I used to be so sensitive about it. I'd have people be like, you know, statistically, if your parents get a divorce, you're more likely to get a divorce too. And I was like, well, that's a really dumb statistic because I'm not statistically 50% of divorce, you know, and I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with that. And I'm like, who asked these questions? You know, you just have to think. And it's one of those statistics where like, where did they even get this? Right. But I was like, I don't want to be that person. But I used to be very sensitive about that. Like I would cry if people said that to me because I'm like, that's so rude.
Well, you also have a lot of experiences through that divorce that are yours that have to be processed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, people don't like recognize that when they go to say something.
They don't. But it usually comes from people who haven't, you know, had divorced parents or anything like that. And it's like, you can't understand. Like I said, I think it made me stronger in the long run. I had a great childhood growing up. There was a lot of really hardships, but all in all, I had a great childhood. I think it's because my parents were so nurturing and loving and they did put us first. Like they weren't perfect, but they did make sure that we were number one top priority. And I was like, I'm really thankful because I know a lot like of some of my friends whose after the parents got divorced, they're also the youngest. Their parents were just kind of done parenting them. So it's like, oh man,
not good,
but still lovely people, but it's just a hard time. And so I'm
processes differently.
Super thankful for that. And I was like, I wouldn't have half the experiences in my life if my parents had, you know, I probably would have had different experiences.
Sure.
But like, we would have never gone to First Baptist in downtown. I would have never went to Guatemala. I just would have never connected with some of the people that I did. You know, even though my stepdad was a piece of work, there was a lot of really good memories mixed in there too. That's where I really got into hiking and I got into camping and other stuff. You know, I got to see my dad a lot more. He worked a lot when we were younger and he did work and travel a lot, you know, later on. But like, it was just different, you know. I really learned, I really cherish when my dad comes home. This is fun, but also, you know, once my parents got out of the funk, like having your fun parents again individually, it's like, it's low key kind of fun when you get that one-on-one time with your parents. It is fun. And so I always try to, even now to this day, which this, just talking about it's a really good reminder because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? But I'm like, you know, I wouldn't have a lot of the story that I have today and the experiences. I don't think I would have learned to trust God so early in my life if my parents hadn't, and to understand that I'm not alone. And so I'm like, I am thankful God used it for really good reasons, even though it was really hard. I know he didn't cause the divorce by any means, but he definitely turned it. Even if it's hard for my parents, so I'm like, he definitely turned, you know, ashes into, what's that called?
Yes. He allowed it for sure.
Yeah, he allowed it, but like, you know, I was like, we know whatever the issue was.
It prepared you for right now.
Yes. So that's been truly a gift that I would love to remember and carry on because life is already so heavy, so there's no need to like dwell on the heaviness of things that have happened. It's good to deal with it, but you can't change it. So it's like, might as well try to fix it from here and do my best of like what I can with God. But remembering like for a while, you know, self-help books helped me, but I had to really be careful because then I was like, I can do it all. I can. And I was like, oops. No, God always. So then I started getting like Christian self-help books, and that was really good. And then in the end, it was just like Christian books, not even self-help books. Cause I was like,
do you have a favorite that you can think of?
Book?
Yeah. That you would recommend.
Wow.
That was a total
on the spot.
On the spot.
I'd say back to Bob Goff, Broken Record, but is the first Christian book I read that wasn't like C.S. Lewis or something. So it was Everybody, Always. And I laughed and I cried when I read that book, but the love, just like his story in general, but like everything he does, he points it to God, and everything he does it for God. And it's just really, really cool. And it's such a great reminder. Like there's literally a chapter where it's called Weird People. And I'm like, yeah. And it's like loving weird people and everything. It just really changed my mind on people. And I honestly I need to read it again because it makes you way less judgmental. He had so much scripture in there, and I just really like him. He's like the most positive person. I've listened to his podcast, and I'm like, he's the coolest guy. And Dream Big was another good one that he did, where it was like, God wants you to dream big, and he wants you to have the big plans with him, but you got to listen to what those plans are from him. So it was really cool. Yeah, I have all the books, so if you guys ever want to read them, they're really wonderful. Love Does made me laugh so hard. He's just so real, and I like it when people are really real, but not like too heavy real. They're like super funny. Heavy is good sometimes, but I also like sometimes if it's too heavy, I'm like, ooh.
I can only take so much of heavy.
Yeah, the 7 comes in and it's like, I gotta have fun now. Like I can't read the book if it's gonna, depress me.
Oh yeah, I can't see a hurt animal.
I was like, oh gosh. I think even starting off, like going back, and you can read those C.S. Lewis books, like Chronicles of Narnia, Scripted Letters, but you can like just going back and seeing those stories and being able to see God. Even it sounds silly, but like you can even see it in Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. My mom, obviously, you could tell, big fantasy reader to us when we were kids.
Because I haven't even seen some of these.
She would always connect stuff like, J.R.R. Tolkien was he was a Christian man, and a lot of his story is based on like heaven and hell and different things. So it's really cool. My parents always brought that up to us, so I always thought that was really interesting. Yeah, we saw Lord of the Rings. Like I think I was like 8. I don't even truly understand it. But
I'm a teacher, not even seen this.
It's also probably bad. Fresh in my brain because we just started watching the first one last night, and I was like, I love these. But it is true. Like I think reading, I'm all about you can read whatever books you want, but I do enjoy books that you can see God in them, or you can connect to him. Don't get me wrong, I love a good murder mystery, stuff like that. But yeah, I would start with your initial question. Everybody Always, I'd start with that, especially if you want to know what it means to live for God and the way he wants you to love others. There's a lot of Ephesians in there, and it's just it was such a healthy way for me to start.
Awesome.
Like that. Yeah, it's good.
I'm going to have to get that one.
You don't have to. You can borrow it.
Oh, that's right. You have it.
I have all of his books except for one.
I'll start with that one.
Uninvited or some, who knows? I can't remember what it's called, but I need to check it out.
He's been telling me through multiple people to spend, to get up earlier, which I would love to tell you that I like to get up early, but I despise it. And so
funny.
Desiree, we had coffee this morning, and she's like, I get up 2 hours before I go to work so that I can spend time with him. And I'm like, that's why you hear from him so well. And I hear from him really well, like really well, but it's that more intentional relationship that I know he's calling to me. That's my word for 2025. Might have even been my word for last year. I don't know, but it's like he's telling me to be more intentional.
Yeah. I like that.
And to come up here, the space is not just for recording. It's for, time to just come up here and be with him. So I would love to actually read it.
I love that. Yeah, it's great. I think also like it's a good reminder. I always say, and I've always been taught, whenever you're going to give your most attention to God, that's when you should, we should make time to make that happen. But when are you most intentional with God? Like, don't try to focus too hard on
what time it is.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Throughout the day.
Yes, exactly. It should be all day. And maybe when you wake up, it's not necessarily reading his word, but maybe it's just like talking with him as you're getting ready. Yeah. Like I talk to him I need to get back into doing this, but talking to him on my way to work instead of listening to the radio or music, or, starting off with a podcast or starting off with worship music or something. Cause sometimes you just don't get up early and you don't want your whole day to go bad because you didn't.
Oh Lord.
So thinking like, he's still with me. It's all good. But starting your day with him is wonderful. I love it. But
I like in my ideal world, I will do that. But who knows if that'll actually happen, but I do know that anytime I intentionally sit down with him, it's so beneficial.
Oh yeah.
And so I just feel so much more peaceful.
I love to right before I go to bed because then I have like a really crazy dreams, like vivid dreams. They're whack and so crazy. So sometimes I really like to have those. Like I like to read that at night because I have less like intense dreams.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is night. They're not even like nightmares, but they're just very active, intense ones. I'm like, geez, I'm doing an obstacle course in my sleep, but it's crazy. There's a tornado last night. I was like, this is wild shit. And I know why. It's so silly. It's Gandalf spinning in a circle and Lord of the Rings. And I was like, I know that's where that came from because that person did that in my dream. They went up just like that.
Watching the movie.
It was weird. Every night's a movie in my brain. So
I love it.
It's a good time. But
Aww.
yeah, we used to joke because I'd have these really wild dreams and it's so silly. But my sister, she's like, Joseph, king of dreams. I'm like, I am like Joseph. It's so silly.
In your dreams.
Yeah, but I know. Some people may think that's weird. I really do think he does because there's been multiple times. And there's been multiple times I had a dream that my grandpa died, and it was like the whole dream was about me preparing for him to die, and then 4 months later he passed away when we were going to go eat dinner with him, and I was like, that was kind of weird. And then there's been other times where God, I think, really shared like people's true hearts. I had nightmares about my future boyfriend before he was even my boyfriend, his face and everything, even when we were just friends, and they were really intense dreams. And I was like, weird. And then I had weird dreams about like my stepdad was in them at the time, and I was like, I just knew like in my heart. And there's been other instances where it's like an event and I'm like, I've literally like skipped going to things because I'm like, I had a weird dream and I'm gonna listen to this because so many things have happened lately. So that's why my sister used to say that. She was like, oh my gosh, Leah, not like prophecy or anything like that, but definitely he talks to me, and I think it is because I have such vivid dreams and I remember them so deeply that I'm like, of course that's where he talked to me because my mind's so busy during the day. Like this is his moment. I need to make more time in it. But I was like, oh, that's really interesting and cool. And so I always do listen to my dreams because I'm like, unless I've watched like some crazy movie, then I'm like,
he talks to me when I'm cleaning the litter box.
It happens.
That's like the most, and that when I'm breathing in all that wonderfulness, you know.
It's the fumes.
No, it's strange places where he'll talk to you. And I was just talking to Desiree about that this morning, that it's interesting, the more you do talk to him, whatever that looks like for you, the more you see him in other places and other things and other people. And it's pretty amazing.
It's so true. And I always think back and I'm like, there's so many things where it's like, wow, God was really protecting me, or God, wow, like he was really in that mix. When I think back on it, like
I say, you're old enough now, you can start looking back.
Super protection, and like super just there, and you're like, what? Oh my gosh, like with the people you meet and everything. No way.
Well, and the intentionality of what he does in the details. We were at Goodwill. This is a reminder to reach out to her. We were in Goodwill, the one that has the very cool route. I don't know what the
Route
state.
66.
Route 66.
Route 66.
What I always say things wrong here.
Route and Jenks.
Jenks. Like you guys say Jenks. And we were in that Goodwill and we were looking through the books because they had some of the books that we read and he has read and want to read, like the Secret Garden, the Prayer Cottage.
The Prayer Cottage is so good.
The Prayer Cottage. And so we're like not even thinking about it, but we're having this open conversation and like just talking out loud about it. And a woman next to us.
We're looking through all the and some of them are over there. They're just the Christian books, and they're in the bargain.
So her and her daughter were kind of over.
I'm like, oh yeah, this was a good one too. Right? We're just grabbing books. Like this is only 99 cents.
And I don't even know how that conversation got started with.
She just said, "Man, I
Jade.
love your guys." Enthusiasm for the Lord.
Oh, that's sweet.
It was cool. And then she and I exchanged numbers, and we've chatted a few times.
She's from Portland.
Portland has moved here a year ago.
That's so random.
Here?
To Tulsa?
Yeah.
How random.
Her and her husband moved down here. They live in Broken Arrow, and she
Christians
came
too.
all the way out here to the West Tulsa.
That one's so far out too from Broken Arrow. Oh my gosh.
She goes, "This one's so much better. I like coming out here."
And it's been cool because I'm like, oh my Lord, look what he does in the craziest places.
Yeah, the most random people.
Yeah.
There's been so many times where I'm like, Oh, wow.
Well, we think it's random.
Well, we think it's random, but it's
random.
not.
It's not random at all.
It always happens on planes for me, and then I'm like, what in the world? Well, I'm traveling alone, and I'm like, I hate traveling alone too, but then it's like, I meet the best people. They always say don't talk to people, but I'm like, hi, be my friend.
Once you start to recognize like what his word says, for me at least, and I think for everybody, once you start to recognize the realness and the depth of what his word says, that every ear needs to hear the name of Jesus, and that we're supposed to continue sharing about him and our story, then it becomes, for me, it's becoming less of what I think people think about me and more about, I need to share what he's done in my life. Because he wants to do it for all of you. And you know what? I'd love to crowd heaven.
I love that. That's so good. I think he also just uses like each person differently too. Cause like he knows I'm not going to be the first person to go up and just start talking to someone about that. But he gives me these experiences. Like when you tell people you're in ministry, they're like, what is that? What do you do exactly? And it's an opener for things. And then you tell them, I went to Guatemala. There's an opener, or this is what happened to me. And this is like how, the goodness came out of it. And it's like, well, how? And it's like, oh, let me tell you a story.
You're sharing your testimony.
Yes. And he specifically, I think, knows just how each person operates, because he's going to give you those opportunities. We should always listen. Sometimes I don't. I'm scared.
Oh, I don't either. Sometimes I don't listen.
But still, like, I think he does truly.
Yeah. I think he grows our boldness once. I mean, he's a very gentle, kind father. Yeah. He's not trying to really throw us into the lion's den.
No, he always equips us for whatever, because it may feel like you're in the lion's den and you're like, good night, what's happening?
But you're so equipped and
he's like,
you can't see it.
Yeah, he always does. And I'm like, geez. And that's why Scott's always like, God has a sense of humor. These things happen. And he's just like, you got it. You know what you're doing. It's like, no, I know.
Like in the dentist chair today when I thought I was going to have literal full-on anxiety attack.
I'm weird about my teeth too. One of my worst fears is to lose my teeth, and so I'm like, please no. I've never had a cavity. Someone give me wood.
Well, you two are more alike because, oh my goodness, not fun.
Good teeth. I mean, I had crooked British teeth, but whatever. They were so crooked. Jack-o'-lantern. We called them Tom Cruise teeth because my my tooth was in the middle of my face. My jaw was like really twisted. It was weird. It's cool. Made me a better person today. I went through the expanders and the braces.
Your teeth are so perfect.
Thanks. I've had 8 permanent teeth removed to get them where they're at today. I have big old teeth.
Move them around. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm so thankful you have teeth, because you could have some hot mess up in here.
Hey, God still loves you. I still love you. David still loves you. It's a humbling moment when it's like, okay, anytime I feel like there's any vanity, it's like, oh, I just got humbled.
So humbling, like this chemical burn that I did on my face with a mask.
Yes.
And like having to go to the dentist with this and then almost crying at the dentist because you're panicking.
Yes. I truly think sometimes like when I give too much attention to the gym, it seems like that's when I always get some like weird muscle spasm or injury. And I'm like, okay, Jesus, I hear you. Not that he caused it, but it's like, sometimes I get a little too into it, and it's like, it's just a way for my brain to turn off. But he's like, it doesn't need to turn off that much. So chill out.
I want you to be here.
That's something that's been, always.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see you grow, even in the short time I've been here.
Still happening.
And you've seen us grow, and you've watched us go through our stuff and just walked alongside us.
It's cool. That's one of the gifts, like hearing your guys' story when we went to lunch that one day. It was really cool because I'm honestly a really private person. So for you guys to be so open about everything, I was like, this is so nice. Just talking to people at the church has really helped me, because I don't like to tell people my personal life. That I'm like, it's okay to tell a little sometimes.
I used to be that way too until I got cancer.
Yes. Wow. And then it changed. Like you just...
Well, you kind of, we almost like when you're pregnant, because you're getting checked all the time when you're pregnant. See what they say, your dignity, you leave your dignity at the door.
Yeah, that's what my mom always said. She's like, your body's no secret.
Oh, and then with the cancer I had was, colorectal. So it's like,
that's really personal
and everything. Personal space.
That's what I want some nurse doing is, inflating a balloon to get a CT scan, and it's like,
that's so nice.
And then radiation, 25 things of radiation, and you can't wear pants, so you have to, or say, kind of cover you. So after a while, you're just like,
whatever, it's just bodies. We're all human.
I'm sure you've seen you've seen it all. So
that's such a good outlook on life, though, like not taking it too seriously. It's okay to share.
Yeah, well, you're kind of being open book at that point. What do you got?
It's true. I know. I think my dad is the same outlook. He actually is. When I was in 7th grade, he almost went into medical coma. He went septic. He had diverticulitis, and he had 12 polyps burst in his intestines. And he had emergency surgery. And he was almost passed out. And they're like, sign this paper. You may have to have a colostomy bag. You may have to have this. You may have to have this. It may be cancerous, so it's crazy. But he had, a lot of doctor appointments with GI and a lot of colonoscopies, and he had a lot of other things. And so he was like, at this point, he just jokes with them, and he's like, did you dream you'd be doing this one day specifically to me? And they're like, no.
Did you find your yearbook this way?
Yeah, it's just like, but it's true. I think,
and maybe that's why he's got a sense of humor, is going through something like that.
He does. He's had so much stuff in his life that I'm like, you gotta have a sense of humor with that story.
That's what I said to him today. He's like, are you okay after all the teeth stuff? Because I thought we were going to get fillings in here today, which is far less expensive than crowns, but there's already too much filling in both of those teeth. So we had to get 2 crowns. So, I just come out and I'm melting down, but then put me back together.
Always.
Humpty Dumpty.
Always. Love that. Oh. Is there anything else you guys want to know or need clarification on or anything?
I think this was awesome.
I think it was good.
It was so good.
So cool.
We never know how it's going to go, and we just trust God, and we don't care.
That's the cool part about it.
Yeah.
You just
kind of
share
fun. I'm sure it was all over, and there were stories that weren't completed.
That's perfect.
Well, and that to me is exactly what happens at the dinner table too. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
There's no scripted thing in conversation.
No.
So how we wanted to do it.
You guys are
talk
fantastic interviewers. We make it feel very personal.
Oh well, we love you. You are so.
It is personal.
That's kind of what He's called us to do. Is just provide the platform to share the stories, just like you did yours tonight.
Believer or non-believer, if you've done enough life, everyone's got a story.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And we're just trying to share God's story, and you can only tell your story so many times.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you've heard it before. So it's like, get some other people in here.
But the stories we keep hearing, just as you hear more in ministry, because this is a ministry, we're learning, oh my gosh, this is a ministry.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that I was going to be doing ministry, and here he is doing that. And it's to me, it's intimidating, and I don't want to get it wrong.
Oh yeah.
And then when you have technical difficulties, you're like, what in the world?
Here's the microphone. Share Jesus.
And that has taken all the pressure off of me.
That's what a lot of people, it goes back to what you're saying. Everyone thinks they need to check the box. Oh my gosh, I didn't do this perfect today. I didn't do this perfect today.
Well, that's
no one does it perfect.
Yeah.
No. He sent his son to die on the cross.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he did it, and he would do it over and over and over and over again.
He sure would.
Just be you and share. It's just like the Alex Amaya one I sent you. Sharing your testimony. And it has to be real.
You can't fake a testimony. You can't. Kids can sniff it out.
You fake it. It won't benefit anybody.
Yeah.
You don't go in in college, he has one in that sermon where he's talking about going into your roommate and trying to, everything's going to be great and everything's good. It's like, no, tell them it's not always going to be great. Sometimes it's going to be hard. People need to realize that it is going to be hard. But sometimes, and most of the times, it's awesome. Yeah. As well.
It's true.
It's life.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, I love it. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
This is fun. It's so much fun. All right, you guys, we're going to sign off. Thank you,
It would be cool
Leah.
to get Kenyon on here.
Yeah.
I was making sure I said it right.
That would be cool.
Love it. He's great, really good at talking. He's a real estate agent, so he's got to be good at talking.
Maybe we can have you both back.
We would love that. Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yes, that would be really fun.
Oh gosh, it'd be cool to hear his side and then tie it into.
I know.
And even dive into because you guys are at 20-somethings now, how you're navigating.
How do you navigate that?
Because you alluded to some of it, is this scriptural? Do we need to go to scripture? Are we doing something that we're not supposed to, that kind of stuff?
It's hard.
That's something we always talk about. And then, then we'll push it off. And then it's like, we probably should talk about that. But it'd be great to have him on too. I'd love to talk with him. He's such a party. He's so fun.
We'd love to.
Yeah. All right. Well, then it's a date.
Yes,
cool.
it is.
We'll just pick a date.
It'll be good.
All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on this journey of faith and reflection. We hope today's episode has inspired and encouraged you in your walk with Christ. Remember, no matter where you are, God's love is always with you, guiding and supporting you every step of the way. If you've been blessed by our podcast, we'd love for you to share it with others who might also benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow us on social media for more updates and encouragement. Until next time, as it is written in Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.